Nan Xi recognized the trap. She urged Lin Jie to go, suggesting Ying Shuang accompany her for protection. Lin Jie sensed the underlying tension. She looked at Nan Xi. Why don't you come along? Nan Xi smiled faintly. I'll pass. She only wants to see you. My presence would be unwelcome. Lin Jie nodded and rose. Nan Xi instructed Ying Shuang, follow her. Don't let young miss suffer any harm. After Lin Jie left, Fu Cheng Gongzi took a sip of tea, a thoughtful expression on his face. It seems Miss Nan has already guessed who's behind this charade. Nan Xi smiled knowingly. Such clumsy tactics, there's only one person who could be responsible. A thought occurred to Nan Xi. Are you perhaps acquainted with Regent Wang, Gongzi? Fu Cheng Gongzi shook his head. No. Nan Xi was puzzled. If they weren't acquainted, why did Rong Yu speak of him so familiarly? Fu Cheng Gongzi then asked, is Regent Wang treating you well? Do you truly care for him? Nan Xi was taken aback by the question. Regent Wang treats me very well, she replied simply. Fu Cheng Gongzi smiled faintly. That's good. His reaction further puzzled Nan Xi. What do you mean? Do you know me? Fu Cheng Gongzi's eyes twinkled. Why don't you guess? Nan Xi was speechless at his cryptic behavior. She continued to question Fu Cheng Gongzi about himself. After a while, he chuckled. Miss Nan seems quite interested in my affairs. Nan Xi realized her inquiries were rather forward. They were practically strangers. She apologized with a smile. I am indeed a little curious. Is Fu Cheng your real name? Fu Cheng Gongzi lowered his voice. Don't tell anyone my real name, isn't Fu Cheng. He suddenly stopped, his gaze fixed on the window. A dart flew through the open window. Yinla reacted swiftly, catching it. He immediately jumped out the window in pursuit. Fu Cheng Gongzi saw a familiar figure fleeing in the distance. He exclaimed, so that's how it is. Nan Xi reassured him, don't worry. With Yinla on the case, they won't get far. To her surprise, Fu Cheng Gongzi followed Yinla out the window. Please excuse me, Miss Nan. We'll meet again. With that, he jumped. Nan Xi was bewildered. By the time she reacted, Fu Cheng Gongzi was gone. As Nan Xi turned, a figure crashed through the window. Rong Yu surveyed the room. Apart from Nan Xi, it was empty. Nan Xi was slightly startled. Rong Yu. Why are you here? That maid thinks she's been so discreet in her scheming, putting on such a show of innocence, crying in front of everyone. She doesn't realize she's the clown. Her little plot failed. After hearing Qi Wang's instigation, Rong Yu knew Nan Xi was being targeted, but he didn't expose it. Instead, he arranged for the rescue and personally protected Nan Xi in her room. He had switched places with Fu Cheng. Nan Xi, oblivious to the swap, playfully scolded, weren't you against this sort of thing earlier? And now you're here in the West Tower. Rong Yu responded with mock seriousness, if I were really here for that, would you scream for help? Nan Xi playfully replied, feigning anticipation, I'd lie still and let you do as you please. Rong Yu blushed slightly. There's no need for as you please, he whispered, drawing closer. Nan Xi boldly cupped Rong Yu's face and kissed him. Afterward, she asked, did Fu Cheng see you just now? Is that why he left? Rong Yu chuckled. He swept Nan Xi into a princess carry, and walked towards the bed. Nan Xi, nestled in his arms, asked, why did you come here so suddenly? Rong Yu replied, someone went to the manor, and told me you were alone with Fu Cheng. Nan Xi pondered. Who would tell on me? Nan Yu can't enter the manor anymore. Could it be Qi Wang? Rong Yu nodded. Smart. Nan Xi scoffed lightly. Him? He's a prince, yet he gossips like an old woman. And his schemes are so clumsy. Rong Yu agreed, just ignore him. Suddenly, Rong Yu noticed something amiss. He brushed Nan Xi's nose, then quickly checked her pulse. He covered Nan Xi's mouth with a handkerchief. Nan Xi, smiling, looked at Rong Yu, trusting him implicitly. After being led to the room by the maid, Lin Jie found it empty. She questioned the maid, where is she? You said she was inside. Find her. She sat down outside the door. Lin Jie's face darkened. She rushed to the door and banged on it. How dare you trick the princess? Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice. Don't worry, princess. I'm here. You're safe. Lin Jie, still worried, asked, Ying Shuang, what's happening? Ying Shuang calmly explained, someone lured the princess away to frame Nan Xi. Lin Jie thought for a moment. Could it be Nan Yu and her mother? Was the maid who lied to me also one of Nanyu's people? Ying Shuang reassured her. Shi Zhengwang has a plan. Hearing that Shi Zhengwang was involved, Lin Jia relaxed. Meanwhile, Nanyu began her performance, weeping dramatically. I saw my sister enter this room with Fu Cheng. I'm worried about her. Where is she? What if something happened? The onlookers exchanged glances. Nan Xi was Shi Zhengwang's consort. If he found out she was alone with a man, someone questioned, wasn't Fu Cheng called away by Qi Wang? How could you have seen them together? Nanyu stammered, still feigning urgency, please, just let my sister out. It's just my sister and Fu Cheng inside. What if he tries something? Nanyu cried, looking genuinely concerned. Inwardly, she was gloating, anticipating the scene when the door opened and everyone saw Nan Xi and Fu Cheng together. She imagined the scandal spreading throughout the city, convinced that Shi Zhengwang would abandon Nan Xi. A pleasant male voice interrupted her fantasy. You're accusing me falsely. You claim to be worried, yet you brought all these people here. Is this concern, or a deliberate attempt to humiliate her? Nanyu stared at Fu Cheng in disbelief. No. Impossible. How? Fu Cheng's face hardened. Are you wondering why I'm not inside, or why your drug didn't work? Your mother tried to frame Nan Xi, but you both ended up trapped instead. One in a brothel, the other a military camp. 16 years of plotting, all for nothing. Nanyu was stunned. She had seen Fu Cheng enter the room with Nan Xi. They should have been compromised by now. The crowd began to murmur against Nanyu. Fu Cheng is right here. Are you playing a trick on us? The door suddenly opened, revealing Shi Zhengwang and Nan Xi. Rongyu looked displeased. What is this commotion? Nan Xi added, feigning annoyance. Are you all expecting to find us in bed? Everyone paled and knelt. Your Highness. Nanyu's face was drained of color. Nan Xi smiled faintly. I came here with His Highness to enjoy the festivities. Did you all think I was here with another man? The crowd stammered apologies, shifting the blame to Nanyu. We were enjoying the poetry, when Nanyu insisted Nan Xi was in danger. They turned on her. We didn't believe her. But she insisted Nan Xi was with Fu Cheng. Nanyu frantically backpedaled, claiming concern for her sister. Nan Xi cut her off mercilessly. You feign sisterly affection. Yet you have a child with Jiyu Qingshu, and now you've orchestrated this spectacle. Anyone with a brain can see through your charade. Nanyu's blood ran cold. She fell to her knees, sobbing. Sister, I didn't. I was worried. Nan Xi, disgusted by her act, snapped, You've pushed me too far. I'd be remiss if I didn't return the favor. Nanyu pleaded with Shi Zhengwang. Your Highness, it's a misunderstanding. Rongyu was unmoved. Since Nanyu enjoys such scenes, let her have her fill. Ying Yun, take her to the Red Flower Brothel. Let Madame Bao give her a proper education. Nanyu paled, unable to comprehend how things had spiraled out of control. She clutched Nanxi's leg, begging, Sister. You can't. My father won't stand for this. The mention of her father only fueled Nanxi's anger. She turned to Rongyu. Your Highness, should I allow this? Rongyu, sensing her fury, ordered the guards to take Nanyu away. Nanyu collapsed, whimpering, no. As she was dragged away, she continued to plead, Shi Zhengwang. Have mercy. Sister, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Her pleas fell on deaf ears. Nan Xi would give her no more chances, and Shi Zhengwang was equally ruthless, caring only for Nanxi's feelings. Before leaving, Rongyu told Fu Cheng, come to the manor later. I have something to discuss. And that other matter is in your hands. Fu Cheng readily agreed. He understood the other matter referred to Nanyu's mother, Liu Shi. Fu Cheng arrived at a room where Liu Shi was bound and gagged. She had heard everything but could do nothing. Fu Cheng chuckled. Still hoping to save your daughter. You chose the wrong person to provoke. Don't worry, I'll make sure Nanyu lives like a queen in the Red Flower Brothel. Shall never leave. Liu Shi glared at him, spitting curses. You traitorous wretch. Release me. I'll tell Nan Xi. Fu Cheng smirked. You were once a respected madam. Perhaps you should experience serving others. How about the military camp? Liu Shi screamed in protest. She had envisioned herself as Chengxia's wife, not a camp follower. Years of scheming, all for naught. Her cries were futile. Rongyu carried Nan Xi back to the manor, and immediately ordered the removal of the incense. Despite his quick action, Nan Xi had inhaled some of the aphrodisiac. She remained calm. "Don't worry, Your Highness. At worst, I'll lose my voice for you. I'm not marrying anyone else anyway." Rongyu blushed. "Don't be absurd. You're uncomfortable." Nan Xi hugged him tighter. "It's just a little hot." She then looked up at him with a pout. "Don't you trust me?" Rongyu embraced her. "It's not that. We just haven't made things official. The physician will be here soon." Nan Xi relaxed in his arms. The physician, Sumachan, arrived shortly. He diagnosed Nan Xi immediately and inwardly sighed. Such a wasted opportunity. Why not just? He dared not voice his thoughts. "Where do you feel unwell, Miss Nan Xi?" Nan Xi replied, "Just a bit warm." Sumachan examined them both. The effects of the drug were mild. For a man, it would be nothing, but for a young lady. He offered a discreet suggestion: the best remedy is intimacy. Or, if you can endure it, the effects will wear off on their own. Although awkward, his words caused Rongyu to blush. He composed himself and dismissed Sumachan. "If you can't help, why are you still here?" Sumachan, inwardly cursing Rongyu's obliviousness, bowed respectfully. "Please excuse me, Your Highness." Before leaving, he added, "If it becomes unbearable, Your Highness can transfer some of your inner energy to alleviate the effects." Rongyu frowned. After a moment's hesitation, he unfastened Nan Xi's collar. She remained still, anticipating his next move. Rongyu hushed her and placed his hand on her neck, channeling his inner energy into her body. Nan Xi felt the heat receding. "Is this your inner energy?" Rongyu smiled as she relaxed. As the energy flowed, Nan Xi felt a sense of euphoria, her eyes closing in pleasure. Rongyu asked if she felt better. Nan Xi, holding his hand, replied, "Much better. Your hand feels magical." Rongyu, however, was starting to feel the heat himself. He couldn't resist kissing her forehead. Nan Xi teased, "Are you trying to be a gentleman?" Rongyu grinned. "You'll find out after we're married." Nan Xi snuggled closer, playfully complaining, "I practically threw myself at you. And you remained so composed." I was starting to doubt my charm. Rongyu reassured her, "You're the only one who has this effect on me." Nan Xi felt another wave of heat. "I thought you were quiet and reserved, but you're quite the smooth talker." Rongyu whispered, "I'll say such things only to you." The atmosphere grew increasingly intimate. But they changed the subject as the aphrodisiac's effects lingered. An hour later, Nan Xi had fully recovered. Yinyu reported on Nanyu. "Madame Bao will take special care of her, knowing she was sent by Shizeng Wang. That vile creature won't bother you again." Nan Xi asked about Liu Shi. "I heard she was handed over to Fu Cheng." Yinyu replied, "He sent her to the border military camp. She leaves tonight." Nan Xi mused. How can a musician have such authority? He's not so simple. It's too much trouble to send Liu Shi to the border. Let's keep her here. Don't you have unmarried soldiers in your camps? Yinyu was taken aback. Wouldn't that disrespect Qingxia? Nan Xi scoffed. They didn't respect me when they plotted against me. Yinyu nodded. Understood. I'll arrange it. Nan Xi stretched contentedly. Liu Shi's schemes had been easily thwarted. No amount of cunning could overcome absolute power. She suddenly wondered where Rongyu was. Yinyu informed her he was discussing matters with Fu Cheng in the study. This piqued Nan Xi's curiosity. A prince discussing matters with a musician. She had to see this. She found Qing Yang guarding the study. Miss Nan Xi. Nan Xi smiled. Can't I be here? The door opened, and a stern-looking general emerged. This is a restricted area. Do you disregard all propriety because of His Highness' favor? Qing Yang intervened. General Lin, it's a misunderstanding. Nan Xi smiled faintly. General Lin is right. I'll wait for His Highness elsewhere. She turned to leave. Suddenly, Rongyu appeared and pulled her into his arms. He glared at Lin Fan. Report to the army. Lin Fan was bewildered. But Your Highness, that girl disrespected. The surrounding servants gasped, pitying Lin Fan for scolding Nan Xi in front of Rongyu. Lin Fan had yet to realize the gravity of his words. As Nan Xi turned to leave, Rongyu appeared and pulled her into a hug. He then ordered Lin Fan to report to the army. Qingyang looked at Lin Fan with sympathy, thinking him foolish for reprimanding Nan Xi. As a loyal subordinate, Lin Fan accepted the punishment. But Nan Xi interjected, "General Lin didn't disrespect me. Please don't punish him. I just wanted to ask Fu Cheng a few questions. I didn't know they were in a meeting. I'm sorry for interrupting your discussion." Rongyu reassured her, leading her inside. Fu Cheng is here. Inside were Fu Cheng and Qi Lin, a strategist known for his calm and meticulous nature. Nan Xi felt embarrassed by Rongyu's public display of affection. But worse was to come. Rongyu lifted her and placed her on his lap. The others were even more embarrassed. They never expected to see the usually aloof prince act so intimately. Rongyu gestured to Fu Cheng. "You can ask him now." Nan Xi blushed, trying to wriggle free. "Your Highness, this is inappropriate." She stood and bowed to everyone. "I apologize. Please continue your discussion." Qi Lin smiled gently. "It's all right. Miss Nanxi's matters are more important." Nan Xi appreciated his words, but still felt awkward. "I'll go to the pharmacy and return later." Rongyu smiled. "I'll come get you." This further stunned the onlookers. Qingyang thought Rongyu was utterly smitten. Nan Xi bid everyone farewell, and Fu Cheng and Qi Lin politely responded. After Nan Xi left, Qi Lin brought up Shu Kingdom's marriage proposal. "What are your thoughts, Your Highness?" Rongyu analyzed the situation. "Shu's old emperor is dying, and the princes are fighting for the throne. The country is in chaos. Years ago, they tried to take advantage of our internal strife. But I led the troops and crushed them in 2 months. They were forced to cede territory, and haven't dared to act up since. Now, they fear we'll retaliate for their past aggression, so they're seeking an alliance through marriage." Rongyu nodded. "Precisely. Fu Cheng saw no benefit in accepting. Their unease benefits us. Other nations will be wary of us as well." Qi Lin agreed. "Besides, the emperor has a queen and 4 consorts. There's no suitable position for a Shu princess." Lin Fan spoke up, "But Your Highness hasn't taken a consort yet." Fu Cheng and Qi Lin stared at him in disbelief. Lin Fan, oblivious, turned to Rongyu. "What are your thoughts, Your Highness?" He trailed off as he met Rongyu's icy gaze. Lin Fan instantly realized his mistake. "I misspoke. The position of Shizeng Wangfei belongs to Miss Nan Xi. That Shu princess is unworthy. I deserve 40 lashes. Tolerating relatives can foster positive influence. That's enough about national affairs. I've called you here today for another matter. The emperor wishes to request the investiture of his eldest son as crown prince. I'd like to hear your opinions." Outwardly seen as a pitiable, underestimated young woman, in reality, possessing a shocking identity, bound by a questionable agreement. Her identity has been kept hidden, even from herself. Fu Chen's appearance made Nan Xi uneasy. He wasn't affiliated with Prince Rongyu, nor had they met before, yet she felt he cared deeply for her. She intended to ask Fu Chen for clarification, but Rongyu and Yuan Shi were talking privately. Although Yuan Shi treated her kindly, Nan Xi felt it inappropriate to interrupt them. After bidding Yuan Shi farewell, she went to the pharmacy. Sumu Chen was curious why Nan Xi suddenly wanted to study medicine. Nan Xi simply explained she wished to be of help. Unaware of Nan Xi's true intentions, Sumu Chen tried to dissuade her, saying studying medicine was arduous. If she merely sought a pastime, she should spend more time with Prince Rongyu. A few sweet words to the prince are more effective than mastering any skill. This clearly implied Nan Xi was just a pretty face. Nan Xi couldn't deny it, yet Sumu Chen wasn't entirely wrong. Given Rongyu's affection, simply being by his side, occasionally praising and comforting him, would please him more than anything. Sumu Chen continued with his blunt honesty. Though Rongyu held high status, Nan Xi shouldn't assume his protection guaranteed peace. Trouble would inevitably find her. And she should learn to handle it. Nan Xi earnestly told Sumu Chen, "You're right, but I'm also studying medicine to protect Rongyu." Though unsure why Nan Xi wanted to protect the prince with medicine, Sumu Chen sarcastically replied, "The prince would be delighted to know your intentions. But I find your efforts somewhat presumptuous." Nan Xi, puzzled, asked why. Sumu Chen smiled, "Because the prince doesn't need your protection. As long as you don't harm him. No one in this world can." Nan Xi realized this was true. Rongyu's past injuries were all because of her. If she wasn't a weakness, his safety was guaranteed. Nan Xi suddenly understood. Thank you, Su Gongzi, for your advice. I think I know what to do. Su Mu Chen told her not to mention it. He was acting in the prince's best interest, and hers as well. Nan Xi pondered, for myself. Su Mu Chen spread his hands. If you truly study under me, we'll inevitably interact frequently. Knowing the prince, he'll be jealous. He then turned and retrieved something from a drawer. This hidden weapon was crafted by Yu Yin for you. It's for self-defense. Nan Xi thanked him, surprised. I didn't know you were skilled in crafting as well as medicine. Su Mu Chen smiled. Don't mention it. As long as you are well, the prince will be well, and everyone in the manor will be well. Nan Xi realized everyone in the manor knew of Rongyu's concern for her. If it weren't for her rebirth, she would have undoubtedly failed Rongyu. Leaving, Nan Xi encountered Rongyu. Seeing her, Rongyu immediately embraced her. Nan Xi confessed, Rongyu, I like you. Rongyu froze for a moment. What's wrong? Did Su Mu Chen bully you? Nan Xi laughed. I just suddenly realized how wonderful you are, making me realize how foolish I was in the past. Rongyu comforted her, telling her not to dwell on the past. He then took her hand. Didn't you have questions for Fu Chen? I'll take you to him now. Nan Xi couldn't help but ask. Has Fu Chen Gongzi met me before? Rongyu hesitated, then said no. But Nan Xi was still unsure. I feel his attitude towards me is unusual. Rongyu gave a cryptic explanation. Fu Chen not meeting you doesn't mean there's no connection between you. Nan Xi was confused. Does that mean there's some unknown connection between us? Can you tell me more? Rongyu fell silent. Then he said, it's complicated. It's better for Fu Chen to tell you about your identity himself. Shortly after, Rongyu brought Nan Xi to a pavilion in Jiaoqing Manor, where Fu Chen awaited them. Seeing them, Fu Chen rose and greeted them, Nan Jiunyang, Wang Yi, then got straight to the point. What questions do you have for me, Nan Jiunyang? Nan Xi voiced her doubts. Is there some unknown connection between us? Fu Chen's tone was cautious. There is, but before I tell you, I must seek your mother's permission. I cannot break the agreement. Nan Xi was even more puzzled. Is there an agreement between you and my mother? Fu Chen shook his head. Not between me and your mother, but between your mother and others. Without her permission, no one can disturb you or reveal your true identity. Cheng Xiang tried to exploit Wang Yan Fuyi's kindness. He even dared to blame Yuan Shi for his daughter's wrongdoings. Unexpectedly, Madame Yuan retaliated fiercely and threatened to ruin the entire Cheng Xiang household. When Fu Chen said he couldn't reveal her true identity, Nan Xi was even more confused. Am I not just the daughter of Cheng Xiang Fu? What other identity could I have? A serious expression crossed Fu Chen's face. This is a long story. Nan Xi, growing impatient, urged him to be brief, suggesting he start by explaining his relationship to her. Fu Chen glanced at Rongyu, who nodded. These small gestures didn't go unnoticed by Nan Xi, further fueling her curiosity. Fu Chen sighed. We are cousins. Your mother is my aunt. Nan Xi was stunned. Why have I never heard my mother mention other relatives? She then asked about his family's origins. Fu Chen shook his head. I can't tell you yet, because of an agreement. Nan Xi sensed something significant was being concealed. Fu Chen seemed to be shrouded in secrets. Again, it was because of an agreement. Seeing she wouldn't get any answers, Nan Xi bid Fu Chen farewell, saying she would ask her mother tomorrow. Fu Chen said he would personally visit Cheng Xiang. Fu the next day. Watching Fu Chen leave, Nan Xi pondered. Her mother had relatives. Why hadn't Fu Chen intervened in the affairs of Prince Shizeng's manor in her past life? And judging by their interaction, Fu Chen and Rongyu seemed to be hiding something. Though curious, she knew it was pointless to overthink. She'd ask her mother tomorrow. Early next morning, Nan Xi arrived at Cheng Xiang Fu. Nan Xi, having skipped court, waited in the main hall to reprimand her. Before she even entered, he erupted, unfilial daughter. You dare show your face? Kneel. His anger stemmed from the incident with Nan Yu and Liu Shi. Nan Xi calmly stepped inside. She glanced at Li Yinyang and her family. All three wore smug expressions, anticipating a good show. Nan Xi nonchalantly said, Father, why such anger so early? You must take care of your health. Li Yinyang sneered, so the eldest miss cares about her father. If outsiders saw this, they'd think you were truly filial. Nan Xi coldly glanced at her. I'm speaking with my father. Li Yinyang, as a concubine, you have no right to interrupt. Li Yinyang was speechless. Nan Xi roared. Nan Xi, how dare you speak to your elders like that? Nan Jiao added fuel to the fire. Elder. Does she even respect elders anymore? I'm afraid my mother can't even speak without her preparing a retort. Yuyin stepped forward, shielding Nan Xi. Is this some kind of public trial? Nan Jiao and Li Shi paled. They'd witnessed Yuyin's ruthlessness, and were now intimidated. Yuyin turned to Nan Xi. Cheng Xiang's household has no discipline, spoiling daughters who disrespect their elders. Perhaps I should mention this to the prince and have him denounce you in court. Nan Xi gritted his teeth. He considered Yuyin a mere servant, yet here she was berating him, and he couldn't retaliate. Just then, a powerful voice boomed. Well said, Yuyin. A Cheng Xiang with such poor household management deserves public scrutiny. I'd like to see how the world judges you, the esteemed Cheng Xiang. It was Madame Yuan. Nan Xi raged, Yuan Shi. Don't forget your place. Madame Yuan retorted, my place. If I divorce you today, would I still need to consider my place? Nan Xi was furious. He had wanted to divorce Yuan Shi but coveted her wealth. Now she was suggesting it, and his pride wouldn't allow it. Yuan Shi calmly continued. Don't be agitated. I'm simply here to inform you that from today onward, no one will bother Xia. Nan Yu and Liu Shi brought their fate upon themselves. Don't even think about blaming Xia. She then looked at Li Shi and her daughter. Anyone who troubles Xia again will face my wrath. I'll make sure you can't even afford the bare necessities. Yuyin cheered silently behind her. Madame Yuan is truly formidable. Yuan Shi then turned to Nan Xi and extended her hand. Xia, let's go. Ignore them. Nan Xi happily took her mother's arm and left, ignoring the stunned expressions of the others. Later, Nan Xi and Yuan Shi chatted over tea. Yuan Shi asked about the meeting at Qingyin Lu. I heard you met Fu Chen Gongzi. What did he say? Nan Xi hesitated. He said he's my cousin. Is it true? I've never heard you mention him. Yuan Shi scoffed. There's no need to mention them. I never intended to acknowledge those people, yet they dare to approach us now, outwardly seen as a pitiable, underestimated woman. She is, in truth, the esteemed princess, and her daughter, the next empress in line. Bound by an agreement, she concealed her identity and lived as Cheng Xiang's wife for years. But someone's appearance disrupted this peaceful existence. When Yuan Shi learned Nan Xi had met Fu Chen at Qingyin Lu, her expression changed. What did Fu Chen tell you? She asked. Nan Xi was confused, as she hadn't learned much from Fu Chen, only that he would visit her mother. Yuan Shi's face showed displeasure. I won't see him. Next time you see him, tell him I don't want to see him and not to waste his time. Nan Xi was even more confused. Mother, why? Yuan Shi's reply was firm. No reason. I just don't want to. Nan Xi's curiosity deepened. Fu Chen seemed amicable, so why did her mother react this way? However, she could tell her mother's feelings were more of annoyance than hatred. Nan Xi attempted to offer help, hoping to understand the situation better, but Yuan Shi laughed. You want to help me? You'll only end up caught in the middle. This made Nan Xi even more perplexed. She had assumed it was a conflict between Fu Chen and her mother, but now she was involved. Yuan Shi seemed to have reached a decision, putting down her teacup. What's meant to be will be. I haven't told you these things because I didn't want to burden you. She then explained her reason for staying with Cheng Xiang. She simply wanted a peaceful life. Nan Xi nodded. You told me before you didn't divorce father because you didn't want Li Shi to benefit. Yuan Shi smiled. That was just an excuse. I haven't told you the real reason. Nan Xi was taken aback, realizing the situation was far more complicated. Yuan Shi suddenly asked seriously, have you truly decided to marry Prince Shizeng? Is it truly him you want? Nan Xi didn't understand the question, but, thinking of Rong Yu, her expression softened, and she firmly replied, I've fallen for Rong Yu and am prepared to spend my life with him. Yuan Shi immediately stood. Let's go to Prince Shizeng's manor now. It's time to talk to the prince. It's time for both of you to know the truth. Nan Xi was surprised. So soon. But she sensed her mother's identity was extraordinary, given the current urgency. Soon, the carriage arrived at Prince Shizeng's manor. Rong Yu and Fu Chen were already waiting. Nan Xi was surprised. Wang Yi, Fu Chen Gongzi, did you anticipate our arrival? Rong Yu simply nodded. Fu Chen stepped forward respectfully. Aunt, it's been a long time. Yuan, she was blunt. Who's your aunt? I have matters to discuss with the prince. Please lead the way, Wang Yi. Considering Rong Yu's status as Prince Shizeng, Yuan Shi's disrespect was astonishing. Yet Rong Yu politely ushered them inside. Nan Xi observed these details, further convinced of her mother's unusual status. Even speaking to Rong Yu, she showed no deference. Rong Yu led them to the study. However, Yuan Shi told Nan Xi to wait outside, wanting to speak with the prince privately. Nan Xi glanced at Rong Yu, who nodded in agreement. Confused but obedient, Nan Xi left, allowing them to talk. As she exited, Yu Yin approached. Ji Yunyang, why are you out here? Nan Xi shrugged. Your Wang Yi kicked me out. Let's stroll in the garden. Inside the study, Yuan Shi sat in the main seat, with Fu Chen and Rong Yu respectfully seated beside her. Fu Chen cautiously began. 16 years have passed, aunt. Don't you think? Yuan Shi interrupted. Do you still remember what your father said? Fu Chen was instantly speechless, embarrassed, and Lady Nan ignored him. He turned to Rong Yu. Did your highness already know about Shi-er's background? Rong Yu nodded slightly. June th. Lady Nan calmly began, Your highness, you are powerful and respected. Even ascending to the throne wouldn't be difficult. But since you know Shi-er's background, can you truly give up everything? Fu Chen was inwardly surprised that Lady Nan would ask such a direct question, but Rong Yu remained calm. Without hesitation, he reassured Lady Nan, in this world, there's nothing I can't give up except for Nan Xi. The prince, renowned for his battlefield prowess and icy demeanor, was utterly devoted to the girl he loved. For his beloved, he would willingly relinquish the entire world, but he would never tolerate her having another man. Hearing Rong Yu's declaration, Lady Nan smiled, admitting she was joking. Your highness, you don't have to give up anything. Power ensures the safety of you and Shi-er. Fu Chen reassured his aunt, even without these, the Regent King can still protect Shi-er and himself. Lady Nan, irritated by Fu Chen, retorted, those wolves and tigers in Donglin's court are not easy to deal with. Fu Chen, with good intentions, had his own reasons. Lady Nan was still worried. Private agreements only bind loyal ministers, not ambitious schemers. She then asked Fu Chen, how is the current political situation in Donglin? Fu Chen sighed, the emperor's health is failing, and handling state affairs is becoming difficult. The crown prince is also unwell. The situation is worrying. I hope aunt can return to Donglin soon. Lady Nan scoffed, you want me to go back? What about your emperor's disapproval? Wouldn't he object? Fu Chen affirmed, the emperor wouldn't dare object. Lady Nan agreed to consider it. Fu Chen, slightly anxious, pleaded, Aunt, please don't take too long. The emperor's health is fragile. If anything happens, Lady Nan interrupted, it's not that dire. He's not dying yet. She then turned to Nan Xi. Xi says she will only marry you. I won't impose any rules, but your highness must understand, if you're with Xi, she's the only one for you, for life. Rong Yu seized on the key phrase, only marry me. Had Xi truly said that? His heart surged with possessiveness, wanting to claim Nan Xi immediately, but first, he reassured Lady Nan, I will never have another. Lady Nan seemed to believe him. I understand your highness' feelings, but you must know, Xi might have other. Rong Yu interrupted firmly, impossible. She can only have me. Meanwhile, Nan Xi was strolling in the garden with Yu Yin and Yin Shuang. She wondered aloud, my mother asked me today if I would only marry Rong Yu. Do you think she disapproves? Yu Yin was surprised. Impossible. You and his highness are in love. There's no reason for disapproval. My mother is elegant and refined. How could she disapprove? Nan Xi chuckled. This was the first time she'd heard someone describe her mother as elegant. The noble women outside called her mother vulgar and low-born. Yin Shuang declared proudly, they are jealous. You resemble your mother. She must have been the most beautiful woman in Daeju in her youth. Yu Yin chimed in. Yin Shuang is right. You truly resemble your mother. Nan Xi laughed. Yu Yin was truly adorable, not at all like a hidden guard. Yu Yin, suddenly embarrassed, said, "I'm just like Yin Shuang, trained from childhood. Ordinary fighters are no match for me." Nan Xi found Yu Yin lively and cheerful, but she didn't know Yu Yin and Yin Shuang were different from other guards. She asked, "What's it like being a hidden guard? Is it hard?" Yu Yin and Yin Shuang exchanged glances, touched. "It's very hard, but our training is different. We have special instructors. We've endured much in the past 10 years. Nan Xi pondered, "So Rong Yu specifically trained you?" Yu Yin nodded, "Probably. His Highness likely trained us to protect his future princess. Now our purpose is fulfilled." Nan Xi was surprised. Trained for his princess 10 years ago. So am now the designated princess. As she walked back, she suddenly saw a familiar figure. Rong Yu gazed intently at Nan Xi. Lady Nan and Fu Cheng were gone. Rong Yu said they had left. Nan Xi was puzzled. Why didn't they say goodbye? Rong Yu simply stared at her. Suddenly, he swept her into his arms. "Come back to my chambers. I have something to tell you." Nan Xi was startled by his strength, wondering if he intended to force the issue. Blushing, she asked softly, "What is it?" Rong Yu remained silent, carrying her swiftly towards his chambers. She saw the possessiveness in his eyes and recalled how he'd denied drugging her before. Why was he like this after talking with her mother? Inside, Rong Yu placed Nan Xi on the bed and dismissed the servants. Sensing something was amiss, Nan Xi saw Rong Yu holding her tighter. Concerned, she touched his face. "Your Highness, what's wrong? You seem unhappy." Rong Yu said nothing, his hands moving over her. His cold, intense aura enveloped her. Nan Xi felt no fear, only embracing him passionately. Still unsatisfied, Rong Yu bit her neck gently. He lifted her face, gazing intently. "You are mine. Only mine, forever." The girl who dreamed of being the Regent King's wife didn't expect to be a candidate for Empress today. But the possessive Regent King, holding her tightly, reassured her. He was willing to abandon everything for her, and submit to her completely. Nan Xi, bewildered by his sudden intensity, was lost in his embrace. She traced his lips. "I am yours, Your Highness, forever." Then she asked, "What's wrong?" Rong Yu suddenly asked if she wanted to be a princess, or an empress. If a princess, he'd abandon everything to return to Jiu Chu with her. If an empress, he'd conquer the world for her. Unaware of her true identity, Nan Xi didn't understand his sudden question. To her, being a princess or empress didn't matter. She only wanted to be his wife. She kissed him tenderly, then asked, "Your Highness, why did you ask that? Did my mother say something?" Rong Yu asked if she knew about Donglin. Of course, she knew. The strongest of the 9 nations, ruled by the Zhuan Yuan imperial family, the only nation with a female emperor. Donglin was once war-torn until Zhuan Yuan Xiaoyu appeared years ago, uniting the land and establishing the Zhuan Yuan dynasty. Unlike other nations, Donglin's heir was decided by both the High Priestess and the Emperor, and the heir wasn't limited to princes. Princesses could also become empress. Even more remarkably, Donglin had enjoyed peace and prosperity for years, its rulers never tyrannical, considered a nation blessed by the gods. But what does Donglin have to do with my mother? Nan Xi asked. Rong Yu revealed, "Your mother is of the Zhuan Yuan imperial family, the second in line, the eldest princess." Nan Xi was stunned. Impossible. She had always lived in Cheng Xiang Mansion, her mother known as Lady Cheng Xiang, often looked down upon as a merchant's wife. If my mother is so noble, why live in Daeju as a merchant's wife? Rong Yu explained, it involves the agreement Fu Cheng mentioned. Donglin allows female emperors, but has only had 2. Generally, the emperor is male. Nan Xi scoffed, turning away, typical male dominance. Rong Yu quickly placated her. Our Cheng Qing will have the final say in everything. Mollified, Nan Xi urged him to continue. Rong Yu explained the female emperor tradition. Donglin's 2 empresses were chosen due to prophecies from the High Priestess. But the Zhuan Yuan family was ambitious, always seeking dominance, while the High Priestess valued peace. So, every years, a female emperor was chosen to temper the Zhuan Yuan's ambition. Nan Xi guessed, is it time for another empress in Donglin? Rong Yu confirmed, yes, Donglin's 3rd empress will soon reign. But the current emperor wants to abolish this tradition. 16 years ago, he opposed your mother's ascension. To avoid the risks of directly abolishing it, he bypassed his sons and chose his grandson as heir. But wouldn't choosing his grandson still break the tradition? Nan Xi questioned. Rong Yu replied, no. The emperor made an agreement with your mother. If your mother left Donglin for 16 years, he would give her fertile lands and immense wealth as compensation. Nan Xi still didn't understand. What's the point? Why did my mother have to leave? Rong Yu patiently explained, because of a prophecy. If the 14-year-old heir survived until his Kamingo phage ceremony without incident, the high priestess would acknowledge him as divinely chosen, and the female emperor tradition would be abolished. It sounded reasonable, but Nan Xi was suspicious. Why such elaborate measures if the heir was already chosen? Was it to prevent my mother from harming him? Only her absence could reassure them, and the emperor's desire to abolish the tradition suggests renewed ambitions of conquest. Why a 16-year agreement if the high priestess opposed the change? The more she thought, the more suspicious she became. There must be more to this. Is Fu Cheng so eager for my mother's return? Because the heir didn't survive, so they need my mother to become empress. Rong Yu confirmed her suspicions, but then revealed something even more shocking. Your mother won't be empress. The next empress is you. Cheng Xiang, infatuated with Lady Cheng Xiang, dreamt of bringing her into his household. He even planned to ask the emperor for a favor during his birthday celebration. But he had no idea his beloved was the most noble woman in the world, and he certainly didn't expect this celebration to become his lifelong nightmare. Nan Xi was dumbfounded when Rong Yu revealed her mother's true identity. She couldn't believe her mother was so noble, much less that she herself was the next empress. How could I be the empress of Donglin? Rong Yu corrected, the future empress. You're not even the heir yet. Nan Xi understood his earlier question about being a princess. If my mother becomes empress, I'd be a princess. Then another thought occurred to her. As empress, I could have a harem. Rong Yu's alarm bells went off. No. You're mine, only mine. You can't have anyone else, ever. He held her so tightly she could barely breathe. His eyes blazing with possessiveness. Nan Xi quickly reassured him, I was joking. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Rong Yu's grip loosened slightly. She cupped his face, declaring firmly, I belong only to you, your highness. Only your wife, no one else. She nestled against his chest, listening to his strong heartbeat as he embraced her. Finally, he spoke, Nan Xi, let's get married. As they traveled to Cheng Xiang Mansion by carriage for the birthday celebration, Nan Xi remarked, Your Highness, you've been riding with me lately. People can't see your impressive horsemanship. Aren't you worried about gossip? Rong Yu replied calmly, No. Anyone who gossips will have their tongue cut out. Nan Xi found his words pleasing. She recalled him saying something similar at the Empress Palace, but cutting out tongues seemed a bit cruel. She teased, Your Highness, no need for such brutality. I enjoy it when people can't stand me, but can't do anything about it. Let them talk. Rong Yu smiled indulgently, as you wish. It was already improper for Nan Xi to live in the Regent King's mansion before marriage, but after the Qingyin Pavilion incident, everyone knew the Regent King treasured Nan Xi. No one dared gossip. Arriving at Cheng Xiang Mansion, Rong Yu helped Nan Xi out of the carriage. The welcoming servants greeted the Regent King, then informed Nan Xi, Madam is waiting for you in Tingyuan. Nan Xi told Rong Yu to go ahead. She would see her mother first. But before she could go far, she encountered Nan Jiao. Nan Jiao sneered, Sister, you're truly favored by the Regent King. Even attending father's birthday celebration with him. People might mistake you for the Regent King's wife, even without an official title. Nan Xi remained unfazed, retorting, Sister, your jealousy is amusing. Even without a title, I'm still favored by the Regent King. Something you'll never achieve. Nan Jiao wasn't discouraged. Smugly, she said, that might change today. I hope you won't be too disappointed later. Seeing Nan Jiao's smugness, Nan Xi sensed trouble brewing. What was Nan Jiao planning? But these people were mere ants in her eyes, incapable of causing real harm. Arriving at Tingyuan, Nan Xi saw Shi Enyu helping Lady Nan dress. Lady Nan, usually simply dressed, looked stunning after being adorned. She far surpassed those snobbish noble women in elegance. Nan Xi asked, Mother, why are you so dressed up today? It's just father's birthday. Lady Nan smiled mysteriously, Your father has big plans today. I hear he intends to ask the emperor for a favor in front of all the guests. Nan Xi frowned, I heard that too, but surely father isn't thinking of asking for my hand in marriage yet. Madame Yuan smiled, Your father always cares about his reputation. Of course, he won't bring up Nan Yu and Liu Shi's scandal himself. He plans to promote Li Xi to equal wife status today. Nan Xi thought, no wonder Nan Jiao was so excited earlier, saying things would change after today. Speaking of which, Nan Xi, furious. Father correcting me in front of so many people is a slap in my face. I won't let him get his way. Madame Yuan confidently told Nan Xi. You don't have to handle this. I have a plan. I'm going to give your father an unforgettable gift today. Noble ladies visited Madame Cheng Xiang, gossiping. They turned to surround a chessboard. They mocked Dinu for her lack of manners. However, Dinu countered their attacks flawlessly. She quickly changed their expressions. Even Madame Li had prepared a good show. When Nan Xi heard that her father was going to promote Li Xi, she was furious, but Madame Yuan told her to stay calm. I've prepared a big gift for your father. Nan Xi was slightly worried. What are you planning to do? Madame Yuan reassured Nan Xi, just watch the show. You don't need to worry about it. If I don't respond to your father properly, how can I live up to his meticulous planning? Seeing her mother's confidence, Nan Xi felt relieved. Whatever you do, I support you. In the Xiangfu garden, several noble ladies and Madame Li and her daughter sat at a table, gossiping. A princess praised, Madame Li comes from a prestigious family. Compared to that vulgar Madame Yuan, you should be the rightful mistress of the Xiangfu. Another princess agreed, if Xiangye wasn't so attached to his first wife, Madame Li should have been the mistress long ago. Princess Rui also spoke up, it's a pity that Xiangye is so loyal to Madame Yuan, who even gave birth to a disloyal daughter, who constantly opposes him. Madame Li, though pleased inside, feigned humility, Xiangye is a loyal and righteous man. I believe he has his own reasons. Princess Rui sneered, isn't Nan Xi just relying on Prince Shizheng's favor? I doubt Prince Shizheng truly loves her. Nan Xi overheard this. She retorted without hesitation, if Prince Shizheng doesn't truly love me, does he truly love you? Princess Rui was instantly enraged. Nan Xi not only humiliated her but also implied she was shameless. She calmed herself and retorted, Miss Nan, you're not even Princess Shizheng yet. How dare you speak to us, noble ladies, like this? It's understandable though. It must be difficult for a merchant's daughter to compare to us. Nan Xi remained calm and agreed sarcastically, Princess Rui is right. As you all gossip behind people's backs, my manners are indeed inferior. Princess Rui was so angry she slammed the table, but couldn't retort. Nan Jiao stepped in, everyone here is a princess, our elders. How can elder sister speak like this? Princess Rui seized the opportunity, look at Nan Jiao, then look at you. No wonder Xiangye favors Nan Jiao. A mother's upbringing truly shapes her daughter. However, when she saw Madame Yuan's beautiful face and expensive attire, she felt a pang of jealousy. A merchant's daughter is still vulgar. She consoled herself. She's just a wife who's about to be discarded. Let her enjoy her money for now. Nan Xi sneered, Princess Rui gets along so well with someone like Li Yinyang. Such magnanimity. I'm impressed. I heard Prince Rui recently took a concubine who's overshadowing you. With your generosity, I'm sure you'll get along with her wonderfully. These words struck a nerve. Princess Rui despised Li Yinyang. Praising Li Xi and Nan Jiao now felt degrading. Humiliated, she could only accuse Nan Xi of being impudent. Nan Xi curtsied slightly, since you all enjoy chatting with chess so much, my mother and I won't disturb you. Have fun. Li Xi, who had been watching, finally lost her composure. She shouted, don't get too cocky, Nan Xi. We'll see who's laughing after today. Nan Xi turned her head and chuckled, I wish Yinyang success in advance then. As they walked away, Madame Yuan told Nan Xi, after today's events, I plan to return to Donglin. Nan Xi, worried about her mother, wanted to go with her. But Madame Yuan refused, since I dare to go back, I can protect myself. They can't do anything to me. Besides, I have my own resources in Donglin. Don't worry. Nan Xi was slightly surprised. You have resources in Donglin, Madame Yuan affirmed, Rongyu is much more capable than you think. I can trust him to help me. In the main hall of the Nan Mansion, the Emperor and Prince Shizheng arrived to celebrate Nan Xing's birthday. A servant announced Madame Yuan's arrival. Elegantly dressed, Madame Yuan entered, radiating an air of nobility. The rumors of her vulgarity seemed unfounded. She and Nan Xi greeted the Emperor first, Your Majesty, Prince Shizheng. Then, she turned to Nan Xingje with a faint smile, May you live a long and prosperous life, Xiangye. Nan Xingje, full of disdain, said coldly, Come and sit down. He was unaware that after today, he might not want to hear these birthday wishes anymore. Suddenly, a voice interrupted, "Sister, are empty wishes all you have?" Jiao Jiao personally made a robe for Xiangye. Nan Jiao demurely presented the robe. "Father, happy birthday." Nan Xi beamed at her. Madame Yuan scoffed, "I also have a carefully prepared gift for Xiangye. Please allow me to keep it a surprise for later." Li Shi sneered, "Sister is truly skilled at piquing people's curiosity." Madame Cheng Xiang flew into a rage. She also slapped Xiao Ni. Ting Enyu fiercely protected her mother. "Anyone who touches my mother will die." Even with the emperor present, Madame Cheng Xiang showed no restraint. Nan Xing's birthday feast was about to become a battlefield. Li Shi, about to be promoted, began to provoke, not only ignoring Madame Yuan, but also having her daughter present a handmade robe. Nan Xingji looked at Nan Jiao's gift with a loving smile. "Jiao Jiao, your thoughtfulness touches me. You've worked hard." Nan Jiao replied obediently, "It's not hard work. It's my duty." The onlookers weren't touched by this father-daughter affection. Instead, they criticized Nan Xingji's poor management. "Xiangye, why are both the Dinu and Shu Nu present? It's said that you favor the Dinu and neglect the Shu Nu. It seems to be true." At the mention of Dinu, everyone looked at Rongyu. Rongyu sipped his tea calmly, seemingly indifferent. Nan Xi also appeared unconcerned, while Madame Yuan watched calmly. Then, Nan Xingji began to openly humiliate Madame Yuan. He turned to the emperor and said, "Your Majesty, I have a request." The emperor told him to speak freely. Nan Xingji pulled Li Shi to his side. "Your Majesty, Li Shi comes from a noble family. Being a concubine is a grievance to her. I wish to promote her to equal wife status. Please grant my request." The crowd was in an uproar. Nan Xingji wanted to humiliate both Madame Yuan and Nan Xi by making this request publicly. The emperor spoke, "Lord Nan, what do you think, Madame Yuan?" He implied he would approve the request. Nan Xi chuckled inwardly. "Has your Majesty forgotten that Prince Shizeng is also present?" Everyone looked at Madame Yuan, anticipating her reaction. Although the emperor asked for Madame Yuan's opinion, he had already expressed his intention. Even if Madame Yuan was unwilling, she couldn't refuse the emperor directly. However, Madame Yuan said firmly, "I disagree." The emperor, taken aback by her defiance, frowned. Nan Jiao gasped and looked at Madame Yuan in shock. Nan Xingji and Li Shi were furious. How dare she defy the emperor? "Are you crazy?" Nan Xingji roared. Madame Yuan calmly replied, "I'm not crazy. If you're dissatisfied, my gift for you today is related to this matter." She took out a letter. "This is my divorce letter to Nan Xingji, also my birthday gift to him. Our relationship ends today. Please bear witness." No one expected this. The emperor's face darkened. Nan Xingji's face turned ashen. He had always wanted to divorce Madame Yuan, but hesitated, not out of affection, but because he relied on her wealth. Now, she was divorcing him publicly. The loss of wealth was one thing, but being divorced by his wife was utterly humiliating. Enraged, Nan Xingji shouted, "How dare a woman divorce a man? Someone, take her away." Nan Xi stepped forward protectively. "Anyone who touches my mother will die." The air froze. Nan Xingji glared at Nan Xi. "What do you think you're doing?" Nan Xi looked at him pointedly. "Father, do you remember how my mother supported you, allowing you to achieve your current status? Then she used her own money to raise those concubines, and their children. And you feel wronged for Li Yinyang. When you despise my mother for being a merchant's daughter, did you ever consider that you're using her money to support them? How much have you taken from her over the years?" Nan Xingji's face flushed with shame and anger. "Shut up." Rongyu finally spoke. "I think Madame Yuan's proposal for divorce is reasonable. What does your Majesty think?" The emperor gripped his teacup, feeling humiliated and angry. Nan Xingji suppressed his rage and addressed Rongyu, "Prince Shizeng, there's no precedent for a woman to initiate divorce." Nan Xi sneered, "If there's no precedent, let my mother create one." She sat beside Rongyu. "What do you think, Your Highness?" Rongyu looked at Nan Xi intently. "I agree." Nan Xingji was stunned. He thought with the emperor's support, Madame Yuan and Nan Xi would have to back down. He didn't expect Madame Yuan to be so defiant. And Prince Shizeng was shamelessly supporting Nan Xi. Li Shi had wanted to compete with Madame Yuan, but Madame Yuan directly initiated divorce. And seeing Rongyu openly supporting Madame Yuan, Nan Xingji's arrogance instantly vanished. All his attempts to please became self-humiliation. When Rong Yu supported the divorce, Nan Xi was furious, but couldn't object openly. He cursed Madame Yuan inwardly for daring to disrespect him, and Prince Shizeng in front of the emperor. Li Shi was also shocked. Losing Madame Yuan's financial support would cripple the Xiangfu. Seeing Nan Xing's embarrassment, Li Shi quickly changed her tactic and tried to appease Madame Yuan. Sister, it's all my fault. Please don't be angry with Xiangye. After the banquet, he'll accept any punishment. She thought she would teach Madame Yuan a lesson later. However, her pleas only earned her further humiliation. Madame Yuan looked at her coldly. You overestimate yourself. My divorce has nothing to do with you. You think you have the right to influence my decision. If I truly cared about you, you wouldn't have even had the chance to enter the Xiangfu. These words hit Li Shi hard, leaving her utterly humiliated. Madame Yuan then announced, in leaving the Xiangfu today, Cheng Xiang is free to promote his concubines or marry whoever he wants. It has nothing to do with me. As for my daughter, Xia, I entrust her to Prince Shizeng. Please take good care of her. Rong Yu reassured her, I will. The emperor clenched his teacup. Damn Prince Shizeng. Does he have any respect for me? Although Nan Xi acted aloof and looked down on merchants, Madame Yuan's departure meant a significant loss of income. He immediately tried to appease her. I won't mention promoting Li Shi again. Let's pretend this never happened, okay? Li Shi paled. Nan Jiao was also shocked. Madame Yuan chuckled, don't flatter yourself. I'm not divorcing you because of Li Shi. Even without her, I would still divorce you. The money I've spent on you over the years is enough to buy your entire Xiangfu. Today's humiliation is your own doing. Nan Xing's face turned pale. Despite his attempts to appease her, Madame Yuan refused to budge. He felt utterly humiliated as a man and an official. Madame Yuan turned to Nan Xi. Xia, I'll leave now. You return to Prince Shizheng's mansion tonight. I'm relieved that Rong Yu will protect you. Nan Xi asked worriedly. Are you leaving with just this status? Madame Yuan understood Nan Xi's concerns. Revealing her true identity now would be detrimental to Nan Xi. She reminded Nan Xi, bring forward your wedding date. This will also give Rong Yu a proper status and peace of mind. Rong Yu's face softened at the mention of marriage. Don't worry, mother. Please take care of yourself. Madame Yuan looked at Nan Xi and Rong Yu with a loving smile. Then addressed the crowd. I apologize for disrupting everyone's mood today. Please forgive me. I'll take my leave now. She left without hesitation. Everyone watched her leave, waiting for the emperor's reaction. After Madame Yuan left, the emperor glared at Nan Xi. As a child, you should mediate between your parents. Why do you insist on causing discord? Nan Xi retorted fearlessly, even if they weren't my parents, I still wouldn't forgive my father's behavior. The emperor frowned. It's normal for a man to have multiple wives and concubines. Nan Xi glancing at Rong Mi was normal, but my father's actions were completely ungrateful. If the Regent King were to be betrothed to me in the future, I would also unceremoniously divorce him. Does your highness agree with me? Rong Mi gently stroked Nan Xi's head. I agree, but I will not be deposed, so you have no reason to divorce me, do you? Everyone present was greatly surprised. Was this still the unapproachable and ruthless Regent King? Impossible. Yet, the Regent King was indeed acting affectionately right before their eyes. Nan Xi leaned against Rong Mi's chest, not showing any unease. Your Highness, I want to see my mother off. Rong Mi held Nan Xi's hand reassuringly. I'll go with you. The two walked out of the hall, as if no one else was there. The emperor's face was so dark, it could drip water. Nan Xi and the others watched them leave, not daring to breathe. After the two left, Nan Xi knelt tremblingly before the emperor. Your Majesty, I have failed in disciplining my family. Please punish me. The emperor suppressed his anger and stood up. I'm tired. Return to the palace. The ministers all knelt, anxiously calling after the emperor. The emperor gritted his teeth. That damned Regent King. Is this Dash's empire mine or his? He's living off his wife's family, and still wants to control everything. Unwillingly, he went back to the palace to rest. But Yuan Shi was unrelenting, and even wanted the servants to pack the leftover food. The concubines were making a fool of themselves. Even the servants started to look down on them. After leaving the main hall, Nan Xi and Li Shi were confronting each other. Then, Yuan Shi left imposingly. Nan Xi also showed off a bit before heading off with her mother. Qing Yang asked Nan Xi, Has His Majesty left? Qing Yang's tone was slightly strange. He just left. His Majesty's face looked terrible, as if Lord Chengshang had cuckolded at him. Nan Xi chuckled. Lord Chengshang's experience today will be talked about for ages. But Qing Yang didn't understand. Lord Chengshang is your own father. They say a daughter obeys her father at home and her husband after marriage. Nan Xi replied calmly, my father didn't agree with me marrying your highness. Do you think I should listen to him? Qing Yang was instantly flustered. This was absolutely unacceptable. His Highness' mood had finally improved. If Miss doesn't marry, the entire residence will suffer. Just then, Rong Mi approached. Qing Yang, tell the ministers that the Emperor will not spare anyone who dares to gossip about today's events. Also, summon Ling Fan immediately. Qing Yang quickly obeyed. Watching Qing Yang rush away, Nan Xi couldn't help but smile. Turning to Rong Mi, she teased, Qing Yang is always worried about your highness' marriage. Rong Mi had a good idea. Let's get married quickly so he doesn't have to worry so much. Yuan Shi told Rong Mi that there was no need to trouble Ling Fan. My people are enough. But Rong Mi explained, the emperor was humiliated today, and will definitely not let it go. He will surely send people to pursue us. No matter how many men Madam has, it's still necessary to take precautions. Yuan Shi naturally understood Rong Mi's meaning. With Ling Fan's escort, the emperor would be more cautious and less likely to act rashly, given the Regent King's status. This also protected her identity. Yuan Shi didn't say more, politely thanking Rong Mi. Thank you, General Ling. Then she turned to Nan Xi, live a good life with His Highness. Don't come back to the Chengshang residence. This is no longer your home. By this time, Shi Enyu had packed Yuan Shi's belongings. Yuan Shi handed the assets over to Nan Xi, which were mostly deeds and bank notes. Before leaving Nan Xi, Yuan Shi had already organized her assets. For convenience, everything was exchanged for bank notes. Not a single coin was left for the Chengshang residence, but Nan Xi was worried that her mother would need money after returning to Donglin. Yuan Shi reassured her. I'm going back to Donglin to enjoy a life of luxury. Why would I need money? If I needed to manage finances, I'd rather not go back. Seeing her mother's imposing manner, Nan Xi was relieved. She knew her mother was not simple. At this moment, Li Shi came over aggressively and asked, Sister, are you planning to empty the Chengshang residence when you leave? Yuan Shi chuckled. Don't worry. I won't take a single thing from the Chengshang residence. These rockeries, trees, even a single blade of grass belong to the residence. The treasury will also be yours in the future. Li Shi was a little confused. The flowers, trees, and rockeries couldn't be taken, but there was still the treasury. She eagerly asked, how much money is left in the treasury? Yuan Shi sneered. What are you thinking? There's no money left. There are only the emperor's rewarded jade and antique zither. If you want money, you can exchange those. From now on, these are yours to manage. Nan Xi was secretly delighted. My mother is truly formidable. Who would dare exchange the emperor's gifts for money? Li Shi's face turned livid. Sister, you've enjoyed the Chengshang residence's luxury for so many years, and now you want to take all the money with you upon leaving. Do you think that's appropriate? Yuan Shi's face was indifferent. What do you mean by me enjoying the residence's luxury? Nan Xi only cared about maintaining a good reputation, and all these years, apart from anger, I haven't gained anything. The Chengshang residence's expenses have been paid with my money. Now that I'm leaving, should I also subsidize him and his concubines with my money? You come from a prestigious family. How can you lack such basic manners? Without waiting for Li Shi to respond, Nan Xi pulled her mother away. Let's not waste any more time here. General Lin is already waiting outside. Yuan Shi nodded, not bothering to continue arguing, and left with Nan Xi. Shi Enyu added from behind, Concubine Li, don't be so shameless. Aren't you always boasting about your prestigious background? You should still maintain basic manners. Otherwise, it will only make people look down on you even more. Li Shi knew clearly that with Nan Xing's meager salary, he couldn't afford so many concubines. Once Yuan Shi left, the entire Chengshang residence would be in financial straits. Even if she became the mistress of the house, what use was an empty treasury? As soon as Nan Xi and Yuan Xi stepped out, Nan Xi chased after them. Wait! Are you really disregarding so many years of our marital relationship? Yuan Xi sneered. What? Do you want to keep me? Didn't you always want to divorce me? I'm taking the initiative today. You should be happy. As she spoke, Yuan Xi didn't bother arguing with him anymore and turned to leave. Let's just part ways peacefully. At least we can maintain basic decency. Lord Chengshang. Take care of yourself. Rong Mi came over at this time and escorted Yuan Xi to the carriage with Nan Xi. Nan Xi reluctantly held her mother's hand, telling her to be careful on the journey. Yuan Xi nodded. I'll write to you, Nan Xi, after I settle down. Rong Mi instructed Ling Fan, you must ensure Madam's safe arrival. If anyone causes trouble along the way, no matter who it is, show no mercy. Ling Fan respectfully assured the Regent King and Nan Xi that he would protect Madam. Yuan Xi waved goodbye. From now on, she was no longer the Madam of Dazha's Chengsheng residence, but the eldest Princess Xuan Yuan Xi of Donglin. Nan Xi tearfully bid farewell, watching the carriage gradually disappear into the distance. Li Shi suddenly reacted. Master, he just left like that. What should we do? Although she didn't say it explicitly, what Li Shi really wanted to ask was, what about the household expenses? Nan Xing's face was gloomy. Although he knew the household finances were tight, he hadn't realized how difficult it would be. He angrily flung his sleeves and left, saying, well managed somehow. After arranging everything, Rong Mi gently embraced Nan Xi. Let's go. We should return. Just as they were about to board the carriage, a palace eunuch arrived to announce, Regent King, please wait. The Empress Dowager summons Miss Nan to the palace. Please proceed immediately. Nan Xi raised an eyebrow slightly. The Emperor just returned to the palace fuming, and now the Empress Dowager summons me. She's so impatient. The girl had been suppressed for years. Soon, she would ascend to her true power and reveal her identity as the strongest female cultivator in the 9 provinces. A secret unknown to those around her. They were still scheming against her behind her back. Nan Xi had just seen her mother off, when the Empress Dowager's eunuch came to summon her to the palace. Nan Xi felt the Empress Dowager was being unreasonable. The Emperor had just returned in a rage, and now she was being summoned. Rong Mi naturally wouldn't let Nan Xi face the Empress Dowager alone, and directly responded to the eunuch. Miss Nan has just undergone a significant event, and needs to rest. Tell the Empress Dowager she's unavailable today. The eunuch was in a difficult position and stammered, the Empress Dowager's orders are absolute. Nan Xi said innocently, you just heard the Regent King say I'm unavailable. How dare a mere girl defy the Regent King's wishes? The usually imposing eunuch of the Empress Dowager was now trembling before the Regent King. Please, Miss Nan, don't make things difficult for this servant. Rong Mi ignored the eunuch and took Nanxi's hand. Don't mind him. Let's go back and continue our wedding preparations. Nan Xi smiled playfully. It seems not only the Empress Dowager, but your Highness is also impatient. Moments later, Rong Mi returned to the residence with Nan Xi. Rong Mi noticed Nanxi's slightly low spirits and asked why she was unhappy. Nan Xi said wistfully, now that my mother has left, I'm afraid I won't be able to see her for a long time. Rong Mi told her it wouldn't be too long. Before your 16th birthday, someone from the Donglin royal family will come to see you. Nanxi's eyes widened. ISNT my 16th birthday this August, but Nan Xi didn't understand. Why would they come to see me then? Rong Mi explained that the Donglin Divine Forest chooses its successor on their 16th birthday. Nan Xi was confused. I haven't felt anything yet. How can it be so soon? She felt a disconnect with this Donglin connection, but Nan Xi felt more reluctant to part with Rong Mi. Doesn't that mean I'll have to separate from you? Donglin is so far from Dazhou. I don't want to be separated from you. Rong Mi was overjoyed upon hearing this. He naturally didn't want to be separated from Nan Xi either, and told her not to worry. I'll go back to Donglin with you. Nan Xi was slightly surprised. Your Highness will also come with me. Leaving behind your position as Regent King of Dazhou. Rong Mi told Nan Xi not to overthink it. Just think of it as a trip. I'll arrange everything. He then pulled Nan Xi onto his lap. Do you have any special requests regarding our wedding? Rong Mi was discussing the wedding details with the matchmaker. You can tell her anything you want. Nan Xi suddenly leaned closer to Rong Mi and began to act coy. I don't have any requests. What truly matters isn't the wedding ceremony, but the result. After we get married, we can be together as much as we want. Your Highness won't have to endure the torment of seeing but not touching. Rong Mi blushed at her bold words. He unconsciously tightened his hold on Nan Xi. You're right. What matters is the result. At this moment, Rong Mi's inner thoughts were racing. Once they were married, Xia would belong only to him, body and soul, inside and out. She must belong only to him. After a while, Rong Mi said softly, let's set the date for April th. It's an auspicious day. Nan Xi replied tenderly, I'll listen to you. Meanwhile, the Empress Dowager was furious. That damned Regent King, how dare he disrespect me? Does he want to rebel? Can't the Emperor find a way to make him relinquish his military power? Rong Chuyan was also helpless. I wish I could, but his prestige in court is even higher than mine. I truly have no way. The Empress Dowager was enraged. Are you the Emperor or is he the Emperor? How can you have no way? Then, the Empress Dowager had a new idea. Now, the Regent King clearly has genuine feelings for Nan Xi. Nan Xi is his weakness and the only one who can control him. I think we can make good use of this. They thought the Regent King married a future noble consort for power, but she had a more shocking identity. Even the Emperor of the 9 provinces would be astonished. But the unaware Empress Dowager and Emperor were still scheming against them. To drive a wedge between Rong Mi and Nan Xi, the Empress Dowager thought of Jiyu Qingshu again. Besides the Regent King, the only other person close to Nan Xi was Qingshu. But the eunuch told her that Nan Xi and Jiyu Qingshu had become enemies. Rong Chuyan was also impatient. They are enemies. What else is there to discuss? The Empress Dowager smiled confidently. Although she didn't know why they had become enemies, she believed Jiyu Qingshu could still be used. Rong Chuyan was surprised. Mother, what do you mean? The eunuch whispered something in her ear. He told her about Nan Yu being pregnant with Jiyu Qingshu's child, only to have it miscarried due to the Regent King's interference. Later, she was sent to a brothel by Nan Xi, and Jiyu Qingshu had been recuperating outside the city, which was also supposedly done by the Regent King. Therefore, Jiyu Qingshu and Nan Xi were not only enemies, but their resentment was also deepening. After hearing this, the Empress Dowager had a plan. The girl Jiyu Qingshu loves is about to marry someone else. How can we not tell him? She then ordered the eunuch to summon Jiyu Qingshu to the palace. Immediately, she wanted to discuss this matter with him personally. While the Empress Dowager and Emperor were scheming, Rong Mi and Nan Xi had already left the city in a carriage. Nan Xi asked curiously, Your Highness, where are we going? Rong Mi said, Sangyin Mountain. Nan Xi was slightly surprised. Are you talking about that Sangyin Mountain, where the 9 Heavens Pavilion is located? Rong Mi nodded calmly. Nan Xi couldn't help but ask, what are we doing at Sangyin Mountain? Rong Mi didn't answer directly, only smiling. You'll know when we get there. Nan Xi felt it was mysterious. Could Rong Mi have some connection to the 9 Heavens Pavilion? The 9 Heavens Pavilion was a transcendent force above the 9 nations. Everyone in the 9 provinces knew of its formidable power. That Sangyin Mountain they were heading to was one of the 9 Heavens Pavilion's locations. Although it didn't belong to the martial world or the imperial court, it was considered a sacred place in the eyes of the world. The 9 Heavens Pavilion rarely interfered with worldly affairs, but possessed the most comprehensive and diverse skill set in the world. Medicine, poison, martial arts, intelligence gathering, and various other skills were all within their grasp. They even held many unknown secrets. Just like its name, the 9 Heavens Pavilion was revered as a divine entity, beyond the reach of ordinary mortals. Even the emperors of the 9 nations would be awed upon hearing the name Sangyin Mountain and 9 Heavens Pavilion. The pavilion master of the 9 Heavens Pavilion was a legendary figure, never appearing in public. The only impression people had of him was his mysteriousness and unattainability. Nan Xi's thoughts wandered, and she turned to ask Rong Mi, You're not going to trick me into going to Sangyin Mountain to be offered as a hostage to bandits, are you? Rong Mi jokingly replied, That's right, I'm the bandit leader, taking you as my hostage. Nan Xi took it as a joke and teased back, Being a hostage sounds good, free and unrestrained, without anyone to control me. How carefree. As they spoke, the carriage reached a remote area. Wrong Mi helped Nan Xi out of the carriage and told her, the road ahead is unsuitable for carriages. I'll carry you over. Wrong Mi mounted his horse and pulled Nan Xi into his arms. He then leaned closer to Nan Xi and asked if she was tired, his breath tickling her ear. She blushed instantly but retorted, I won't be tired with such a handsome husband as my mount. But after getting off the carriage, I feel a little tired. Wrong Mi held Nan Xi tighter and said, come closer. I'll use my inner energy to help you. Moments later, Wrong Mi asked if she felt better. Nan Xi, her face flushed, said, Your Highness' embrace is so warm. The Chengsheng residence's noble daughter became a commoner, but the Prince Regent arranged for him an even more prestigious identity, and a grand wedding. After a swift horse ride, Wrong Yu arrived with Nan Xi at the foot of Tsangyin Mountain. They could not ride any further. Winding paths and lush greenery stretched before them. Nan Xi felt as if every scene was a painting. Wrong Yu told her, from now on, don't leave my side. Tsangyin Mountain is surrounded by a powerful formation. Outsiders easily get lost without a guide. Seeing how familiar Wrong Yu was with this place, Nan Xi couldn't help but wonder, you're not really a bandit, are you? Xingyang and Yingyu, who had just arrived, overheard this. The outspoken Xingyang retorted. Bandit. Tsangyin Mountain is the revered holy ground of the Nine Firmaments Palace. How could it be related to bandits? Wrong Yu glared at the talkative Xingyang. Xingyang immediately shut his mouth. He understood. No matter what the girl said, his master would always find it right. If his master were the emperor, he'd probably give up his kingdom for her. Nan Xi looked at the towering mountain peak and wondered, the Nine Firmaments Palace is located so high up. Are the people here self-sufficient? Xingyang started again, the disciples of the Nine Firmaments Palace are all experts. They travel with ease, ascending and descending the mountain, as if walking on flat ground. Nan Xi was astonished. So, the legends of soaring through the heavens are real. Wrong Yu suddenly asked Nan Xi, do you want to try? A little scared, before Nan Xi could react, Wrong Yu swept her into a princess carry. Nan Xi quickly wrapped her arms around Wrong Yu's neck. With a single step, Wrong Yu leaped into the air. Nan Xi was held tightly in his arms. She closed her eyes in fear, hearing only the wind whistling past her ears and the rustling of leaves. After a while, Nan Xi got used to the sensation of flying. She opened her eyes and looked ahead. Wrong Yu tightened his grip on her arm. Seeing the scenery, Nan Xi's jaw dropped. She had never experienced such a feeling of freedom. Mountains, cliffs, and trees flashed past like fleeting images. The mountain air was clean and refreshing. Nan Xi felt like she was in a dream. Wrong Yu flew with Nan Xi for a while until a long staircase appeared in the distance. He slowed down, and after landing on the stairs, gently put Nan Xi down. How was it? He asked. Nan Xi beamed. Amazing. I didn't know you were so powerful. Suddenly, several figures appeared, kneeling before them. Greetings, Palace Master. Nan Xi's eyes widened. Wrong Yu, you're the Palace Master of the Nine Firmaments Palace. Wrong Yu didn't answer, just looked at Nan Xi affectionately and took her hand. Nan Xi suddenly felt that Wrong Yu was unfathomable. I feel like I don't know you at all. Wrong Yu smiled faintly. It's all right, we have plenty of time to get to know each other. As they walked up, Nan Xi asked, this mountain peak is so high, isolated from the world. Did immortals cultivate here in the past? Xingyang and Yingyu, who had caught up using their qinggong, overheard this. Xingyang chimed in, what immortals? Have you been reading too many myths? Wrong Yu, exasperated, gave him another icy glare. Yingyu, find a cliff and throw Xingyang off. Xingyang panicked. Yingyu immediately complied, Brother Xingyang, do you want to choose your own scenic spot, or shall I throw you down right here? Xingyang backed away quickly. Sister Yingyu, I was wrong, all right. The Nine Firmaments Palace stood atop the towering peak. Under the moonlight, it looked solemn and magnificent. As they reached the final step, a magnificent palace came into view. The plaque of the Nine Firmaments Palace, with its bold calligraphy, seemed to proclaim its noble status. Wrong Yu told Nan Xi, we're here. The rumored scandalous woman became the most respected woman in the kingdom, and the Prince Regent gave her a grand wedding, arranging for her a status even more prestigious than the Empress, bestowing upon her the utmost respect, while he willingly became a son-in-law, entering the gates of the Nine Firmaments Palace. Several disciples stood guard, alert and imposing. The two guarding the gate were especially striking. The young man in black was cold and aloof, sharp and imposing. The young man in white was elegant and refined, like a gentle nobleman. Nan Xi stared, impressed. Rong Yu's subordinates were truly exceptional. Their aura alone set them apart. The two young men also paused when they saw Nan Xi, then bowed respectfully. "Greetings, master." Rong Yu introduced them. "Yandere, Qin Shu, this is my wife, Nan Xi, and the future mistress of the 9 Firmaments Palace." The two young men bowed again. "Greetings, madam." Nan Xi said politely, "Please rise." Rong Yu announced his arrangements. "My wedding is on the 18th of April. Xia will leave Sangyun Mountain on that day. Yandere, you will be fully responsible for the arrangements. It must be grand." Nan Xi felt a little embarrassed. "It doesn't need to be too extravagant." Yandere reassured her, "Madam, don't worry. The wedding of the Prince Regent and the daughter of the 9 Firmaments Palace cannot be anything but grand. Leave everything to me." Nan Xi was stunned again. The daughter of the 9 Firmaments Palace. So that was Rong Yu's plan. He had even arranged her identity perfectly. She was touched by his thoughtfulness. After settling this matter, Rong Yu instructed them to prepare a light meal for half an hour later. Everyone bowed and left. A while later, Nan Xi was soaking in a hot spring, attended by several maids. Rong Yu explained, "This is hot spring water from the mountain. It helps relieve fatigue. I'll wait outside." He turned to leave. Nan Xi called out, "Don't go. I have something to tell you." Rong Yu hesitated, saying, "Tell me after you're done bathing. I'll go out first." As he was about to leave, Nan Xi hugged him from behind. "Don't go. I'm not shy, what are you worried about? I want you to massage my back." Rong Yu blushed instantly, feeling his blood rush to his head, as he looked down at Nan Xi. Nan Xi turned her back to him. Rong Yu suppressed his emotions and gently massaged her back. Nan Xi closed her eyes in comfort, but continued teasing, "Were you so eager to leave because you were afraid you wouldn't be able to control yourself?" Rong Yu denied it. "No, I just had something to discuss with Yandere, so I wasn't in a hurry to bathe." Hearing his evasive answer, Nan Xi smiled playfully. "I think you were just worried you wouldn't be able to resist." She reached out to him. "You've been working hard these past few days. Let's bathe together." Rong Yu blushed but insisted, "We're getting married soon. There's no rush." Nan Xi pouted. "You're such a principled man. My wedding will be a sensation. Do you want me to be a woman admired by everyone?" Rong Yu kissed her hand tenderly. "I want to be the man admired by everyone." Nan Xi laughed. "The palace master of the 9 Firmaments Palace will become a son-in-law just to marry me." Rong Yu smiled back. "I'll also become the son-in-law of the Eastern Forest. When that day comes, I'll have to rely on Madam's protection." Nan Xi leaned against his leg. "Rong Yu, did I do a lot of good deeds in my past life to be so lucky to meet you?" Rong Yu's eyes softened. "I'm the lucky one to have met you." The girl who had been scorned for years suddenly became the most respected woman in the 9 kingdoms. Sealed memories began to surface in her dreams. After taking the Jade Harmony pill, Nan Xi's fatigue vanished, replaced by overwhelming drowsiness. Rong Yu carried her to bed. Nan Xi murmured his name. "Rong Yu, you're so good. Good-looking and kind. I like you more and more." She drifted off to sleep. Rong Yu gazed at her beautiful face, his heart racing. He suppressed his desires and kissed her forehead. In her dream, Nan Xi heard a gentle voice calling Shi. The voice felt both real and distant, like a whisper across time and space. Nan Xi tried to identify the source, and suddenly opened her eyes. Seeing her surroundings, she realized it was just a dream. Yingyu entered with a basin of water. "Madam, you're awake. The prince has prepared a table of delicacies waiting for you." Nan Xi's first question was, "Where's Rong Yu?" Yingyu replied, "He's in the study." "Shall I call him?" Nan Xi smiled. "No need." At that moment, Rong Yu entered. Nan Xi was captivated. Rong Yu was dressed in white, exuding an ethereal and noble aura. He was breathtakingly handsome. He kissed her forehead tenderly. Nan Xi complimented him. You look so handsome today. Rong Yu chuckled, just today. Nan Xi replied smoothly, of course not. I can't take my eyes off you every day. Rong Yu took her hand and led her outside. I'm glad you like it. Let's eat first. I'll take you stargazing later. Nan Xi felt a surge of warmth and happiness. As night fell, Nan Xi and Rong Yu admired the scenery from the mountain peak, like a pair of celestial beings. Nan Xi felt a sense of unreality. Rong Yu was impeccably good to her. So good that she wondered if she deserved such favor. Amidst the beautiful scenery, she felt like she was in a dream. Qingyang and Yingyu followed from a distance. Observing their master's tender demeanor, Qingyang couldn't help but worry, will our master, immersed in this love, still? Yingyu interrupted him. Are you itching for a beating? I enjoy seeing the prince pamper madam. Qingyang, oblivious to the joys of shipping, found Yingyu strange. What do you enjoy about that? Later, nestled in Rong Yu's arms, Nan Xi asked about her mother. Rong Yu reassured her, your mother has left the capital. Everything is fine. Nan Xi trusted Rong Yu completely. She sighed, my husband and mother are both so powerful and care for me so much. I'm so lucky. Her flushed cheeks and bright eyes captivated Rong Yu. He felt that having Nan Xi in his life was his greatest blessing. He told her, stay here for a while. If you need anything, just ask Yan Ting. Nan Xi pictured the gentle young man in white. Yan Ting is the one in white, right? He seems easy to get along with. This simple sentence made Rong Yu's expression darken slightly. He didn't say anything, but Nan Xi noticed his subtle change in mood. She smiled and coaxed him, he's not as good-looking as you. My prince is the most handsome. She snuggled closer and closed her eyes. Rong Yu's expression softened. He blushed and stroked her hair. Hearing Nan Xi call him my prince warmed his heart. To sabotage the Prince Regent's wedding, the Empress Dowager sent him 2 courtesans. However, their skills were useless before the Prince Regent. Nan Xi didn't have to worry about anything. Rong Yu had arranged everything. He would return to the capital first and then lead the wedding procession to meet the bride halfway. Sangyin Mountain was quite far from the capital, so he had to leave 2 days in advance. Yan Ting would handle all the arrangements. Nan Xi just needed to wait for her wedding day. News of Rong Yu's wedding reached the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. The Empress Dowager was furious. Such an important matter, and he didn't even consult me. He clearly has no respect for the imperial court. Emperor Rong Chuyun was also worried. Rong Yu was powerful, and Nan Xi was resourceful. Their marriage would make Rong Yu even stronger. He asked, Mother, do you have any countermeasures? The Empress Dowager thought for a moment and made a foolish decision. Rong Yu has never shown interest in women. He's probably inexperienced in such matters. Let's send him 2 experienced courtesans. She ordered the eunuch, Pan Hai, go select 2 courtesans and send them to the Prince Regent. Say they are a gift from me. And tell him to learn from them. Rong Chuyun was skeptical. He felt the Empress Dowager was oversimplifying things. Her methods were limited to harem intrigues. Rong Yu wouldn't even bother with such tricks. But he merely asked, Mother, isn't it too hasty to summon him to the palace? Won't that alert him? The Empress Dowager smiled confidently. Don't worry, I have my ways of dealing with him. You should go talk to Bu Jingshu. He's the key player in this. Rong Chuyun simply said, I understand. The Empress Dowager clutched her prayer beads, a smug look on her face. Go ahead, Your Majesty. I'll send someone to inform you of any news. A while later, Pan Hai arrived at the Prince Regent's residence. He ran into Simu Cheng, who was returning. Simu Cheng looked at him with disdain. What are you doing here, eunuch Pan? Pan Hai, arrogant as the Empress Dowager's man, replied condescendingly, I'm here on Her Majesty's orders to deliver 2 courtesans to the Prince Regent. Is he in? Simu Cheng's expression turned strange. Courtesans? The prince has no need for such things. He turned and entered. The prince is not in. Please leave, eunuch Pan. My master has no use for courtesans. Take them back. Pan Hai was taken aback by his disrespect. I am here on Her Majesty's orders. Simu Cheng ignored him, slamming the door shut in his face. Pan Hai gritted his teeth. Damn the Prince Regent's residence. Even a mere servant is so arrogant. No wonder His Majesty suspects the Prince Regent of rebellious intentions. As he was about to leave, he heard the sound of horses approaching. He turned and saw the Prince Regent returning. Pan Hai hastily bowed. "Greetings, Your Highness." Rong Yu simply asked, "What is it?" Pan Hai put on a fawning smile. "Your Highness, I am here on Her Majesty's orders to invite you to the palace. She has important matters to discuss with you." Rong Yu dismounted and walked towards the residence. "I need to change first. I'll enter the palace tonight." Pan Hai could only bow and retreat. Inside, Sumu Cheng was waiting. "What was that about, Your Highness? What is the Empress Dowager up to?" Sumu Cheng chuckled. "He said he was delivering 2 courtesans. I sent him away." Rong Yu's expression remained neutral. Qing Yang, however, was shocked. "Courtesans? The Empress Dowager is clearly trying to sabotage Master's wedding." The Empress Dowager's schemes were easily seen through, but the Prince Regent didn't bother with them. With a few words, he easily turned the tables on the Empress Dowager, making her look like a fool. After nightfall, Rong Yu entered the palace. Arriving at Sining Palace, he got straight to the point. "What does the Empress Dowager want?" The Empress Dowager didn't dare confront him directly, but her face was grim. She sipped her tea and said casually, "About your marriage, Rong Yu. Nan Xi is not worthy of you." Rong Yu's expression darkened. "My wife's worth is not for others to judge." The Empress Dowager slammed her cup down. Unaware of Nan Xi's true identity as the daughter of the 9 Firmaments Palace, she tried to use imperial rules to restrain Rong Yu. "You know the rules of imperial marriage. If you insist on marrying her, I have a condition." She proposed that when Nan become the official wife, and Nan Xi a concubine. Rong Yu scoffed. He didn't waste his breath. "Is the Empress Dowager finished? If so, I'll take my leave." The Empress Dowager's face contorted. "Rong Yu, think carefully. Nan Xi is just a merchant's daughter. She's not even qualified to enter the imperial family records." Rong Yu found it laughable. What are the imperial family records worth? Can they buy happiness? But he merely said coldly, "My marriage is none of your concern. If I hear any more insults towards Nan Xi, don't blame me for being impolite. That includes you." His words were a clear warning. The Empress Dowager's face paled. She gritted her teeth, speechless. Just then, a voice announced, "The Emperor has arrived." Rong Chuyan feigned surprise. "Imperial uncle, what a coincidence. Since you're here, why not join us? I have something to discuss with you as well." Rong Yu didn't give him face. "I'm busy with my wedding preparations. I don't have time to chat." He added a threat. "Nan Xi is my beloved. Anyone who dares to harm her will face my wrath. If you want to remain on the throne, remember my words. Don't do anything foolish." Rong Chuyan broke out in a cold sweat under Rong Yu's imposing aura. His anger flared. "Imperial uncle, are you threatening me?" Rong Yu didn't look back. "You can consider it a threat. I can tolerate many things, but I will not tolerate anyone who harms Nan Xi." Rong Chuyan clenched his fists. He felt Rong Yu was utterly disrespectful, not even acknowledging him as the emperor. He wouldn't let this stand. Rong Chuyan's eyes flashed with malice. He glared at Rong Yu's back. He immediately ordered his men to investigate Rong Yu's recent activities. However, before he could find anything, Rong Yu's wedding day arrived. Rong Yu led the wedding procession out of the city. The grand procession, with its guards and banners, was a magnificent sight. Onlookers marveled at the scale of the wedding. But most were curious about the bride. Meanwhile, Nan Xi's procession from Sangyin Mountain had already departed and was heading towards the capital. The 2 processions would meet in Wei Cheng. Rong Yu eagerly dismounted from his horse and approached the palanquin. He hadn't seen his beloved for a day, which felt like 3 years. Nan Xi, radiant in her red wedding attire, looked at him tenderly. "Did you miss me?" Rong Yu's heart melted. He kissed her hand gently. He then sat beside her in the palanquin, his gaze fixed on her. The procession continued towards the capital. Rong Yu held Nan Xi's hand and asked tenderly, "Are you tired from the journey?" Nan Xi shook her head. "Not at all. The palanquin is comfortable." Rong Yu held her close. "They are experts from Sangyin Mountain. This short distance won't tire them." But Nan Xi sensed his subtle displeasure. "Rong Yu, you seem unhappy. Did the emperor give you trouble again?" Rongyu was silent for a moment, then shook his head. Not the emperor. The Empress Dowager. The Prince Regent's grand wedding was about to begin. It was even more extravagant than the emperor's wedding, but what surprised everyone the most was the bride's identity. The scorned merchant's daughter was now the daughter of the powerful Nine Firmaments Palace. The procession headed towards the capital. Before reaching the capital, Rongyu and Nan Xi stopped in their palanquin. Nan Xi was furious when she heard how the Empress Dowager had treated Rongyu. Her eyes flashed with anger. That Empress Dowager. What more does she want? Does she want you to dethrone her son before she's satisfied? Seeing Nan Xi defend him so fiercely, Rongyu smiled. Don't worry. The Empress Dowager can't do anything to me. She wants to act like my elder, but it depends on whether I'm willing to play along. She thinks too. If your highness is ever unhappy, you must tell me. We'll share the burden together. Rongyu felt incredibly happy hearing she say we too. Yes, sharing burdens from now until the end of our lives. We'll share all our joys and sorrows. She solemnly declared, if necessary, I can even help you get revenge. Rongyu's expression was playful. How would you help me get revenge? She said to Rongyu, the Empress Dowager is your sister-in-law after all. If you're unkind to her, people will gossip. But I'm different. For a sister-in-law who dares to act so recklessly, I can make her regret her actions. Women's wars should be fought in a woman's way. Rongyu leaned closer to Xi. You're right. That's exactly what I think. She mischievously narrowed her eyes. Then we're a team against the world. I don't have a good reputation anyway, so I might as well be flamboyant and unrestrained. The future Shizeng Wangfei won't care about her reputation either. Rongyu adored this unrestrained side of her. Ali Fei's right. In the future, you can act however unrestrained you want. She blushed slightly at Rongyu's words. Ali Fei, unrestrained. She hadn't expected Rongyu to think this way. Moments later, they arrived in Fengyang City. After finally getting off the carriage, he helped Xi down. They planned to rest in Fengyang City and hold the wedding ceremony in the capital the next day. The next morning, scarlet red carpets stretched from the imperial palace gates to the Shizeng Wangfu. Crimson lanterns hung high throughout the capital, creating a spectacle that left onlookers awestruck. It was almost like an empress wedding. Rongyu, in a bright red wedding attire, sat on horseback, his face devoid of coldness, replaced with boundless tenderness. Behind him was the mighty Shizeng Wangfu retinue. In the bustling crowd, Rongyu spotted an elegant and beautiful woman approaching the procession. Though her features were unclear, her phoenix crown and ornate attire, along with her dazzling aura, were unmistakable. The onlookers whispered, "Isn't the bride the young miss from the Shang family? Why didn't she come from the Shang family residence?" The crowd recalled the Shang family's ladies' actions during the Shang family's wedding. No one expected a merchant's daughter to have the power to cause such turmoil. She didn't even give the emperor face. Overnight, the whole city was abuzz. Everyone was curious about the Shizeng Wang's bride. A handsome and refined man approached the Shizeng Wang, speaking gently and respectfully. Today is the wedding day of Miss Zhu Xiaoge, marrying the Shizeng Wang of Dazhou. We hope your highness will treat our Miss Zhu Xiaoge kindly. This announcement stunned the crowd. The bride was the influential Zhu Xiaoge's daughter. But wasn't the Shizeng Wang marrying the Shang family's daughter? How did this happen? Under everyone's gaze, Rongyu dismounted and walked towards the bridal sedan. After looking at the sedan, he extended his hand towards the interior. Xi's face was flushed, meeting Rongyu's tender gaze. He gently helped Xi out of the sedan. After she descended, another uproar erupted. Isn't that the Shang family miss? How did she become Miss Zhu Xiaoge? The wedding ceremony exposed the bride's true identity, shattering a 60-year-old mystery. She was the illustrious Zhu Xiaoge's daughter. The astonished crowd included the emperor. However, the seemingly shocked emperor arrived with ulterior motives. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Rongyu lifted Xi from the sedan. All eyes were on them. They were just discussing the Shizeng Wang's retinue. Was the bride the Shang family miss or Miss Zhu Xiaoge? Now everyone knew. The powerful Zhu Xiaoge family celebrated openly, concealing the long-hidden secret. She leaned contentedly against Rongyu. Rongyu deliberately didn't allow Xi to cover her face, wanting everyone to see his bride clearly, the future Shizeng Wangfei. Just as Rongyu was about to take Xi into the bridal chamber, an announcement came. His Majesty the Emperor and the Empress Dowager have arrived. She glanced over, her expression calm and unwavering. Though she expected the Emperor's arrival to be insincere, A subtle smile played on her lips. The crowd immediately bowed, greeting the Emperor and Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager was under house arrest, but the Emperor assumed the Shizeng Wang wouldn't cause trouble today, using this as an opportunity to release her. Despite the Emperor's warm and genial demeanor, Rongyu remained unimpressed. She knew the Emperor's smile hid malicious intent. Rongyu raised his wine cup. Your Majesty, the Empress Dowager, has also come to celebrate. This toast is to the newlyweds. May you live a long and happy life together. Rongyu smiled and drank. Thank you for your blessing, Your Majesty. He finished the wine without hesitation. Rongyu immediately poured another cup for Xi. This toast is from the imperial family. She was about to accept the cup, when Rongyu intercepted her. Xia doesn't drink well. Let me drink this cup instead. He ignored the Emperor's reaction. Finally, Rongyu drank the wine. Several princes whispered, the royal uncle is amazing. He really spoils the royal aunt. Rongyu casually inquired about Xai's identity. The royal aunt truly is Miss Zhu Xiaoge. I've never heard of this. She explained, my mother has always been low-key. She only told me her identity after marrying my father. I was quite shocked back then. Rongyu clenched his fist. If he knew she was the Zhu Xiaoge's daughter, he never would have let her marry the Shang family. He feigned composure and said, I never knew Madame Shang was the Zhu Xiaoge's daughter. She nodded calmly. The Zhu Xiaoge's leader's daughter-in-law, I'm sort of a noble lady now. Rongyu turned to his brothers. Today is a joyous occasion. Brothers, wouldn't you all like to toast to the royal uncle? The Qi and Lu princes quickly stepped forward. We would be honored. As several princes came forward to toast, a cold glint flashed in Rongyu's eyes. Behind the Qi and Lu princes, several more were waiting in line. Then Prince Rong Chuxiu intervened. I think we brothers should toast first. The little royal uncle's wedding shouldn't be disrupted. We can toast later. Rong Chuxiu, known for her detachment from worldly affairs, spoke up for Rongyu without raising suspicion. She then turned to Rongyu, third brother, what do you think? Rongyu lightly glanced at Rong Chuxiu. Then I won't impose on the royal uncle and royal aunt any longer. The unspoken conflict subsided. A joyous shout rang out, announcing the procession to the bridal chamber. Rong Chuxiu watched Rongyu and Xi, her gaze soft. Yingyu and Yingshuang were sincerely happy for their master and the bride. Qingyang was visibly excited. On their wedding night, the bride was rendered unconscious in the chamber. Even her personal maids collapsed. The guards outside were distracted. Tonight, he would make his ex-lover pay. Moments earlier, Rongyu and Xi entered the chamber. Yingyu and Yingshuang scattered red dates and peanuts, symbols of early offspring, into the bed. Each maid smiled brightly. Rongyu gently lifted Xai's bridal veil, revealing her exquisite beauty. Xi and Rongyu were both filled with tender affection. The female official presented the wedding wine, secretly marveling at the pair, a perfect match made in heaven. Rongyu and Xi exchanged wedding cups amidst joyous celebrations. Many offered their blessings, congratulating the newlyweds. Qingyang entered to offer his blessings, reminding Rongyu, the guests outside are waiting, Your Highness. Should we go out soon? Rongyu hesitated, reluctant to leave Xai's side, but he couldn't ignore the waiting guests. She gently adjusted Rongyu's headdress. It's our wedding day, don't worry. The Emperor and Prince Zhu are here. Have Yingyu greet them. Come back soon. Rongyu reassured Xi, I'll be right back. He gently removed the heavy ornaments from Xai's hair. This is too heavy. Let your neck rest a bit. A female official looked worried. Your Highness, this is against protocol. Yingyu quickly interjected, Our Highness cherishes the Wangfei. That's our protocol. Though just dealing with guests, Rongyu still bid farewell to Xi, urging her to eat if she was hungry. She urged him to drink less. After Rongyu and the female officials left, Yingyu and Yingshuang chatted happily. Your Highness is so considerate. We're so touched. As they talked, a court lady arrived with a tightly sealed box. The Empress Dowager sent a gift to be presented personally to the Shizeng Wangfei. Yingyu and Yingshuang exchanged a knowing glance. She knew the Empress Dowager's gift was likely a trap set by the Emperor, but she calmly permitted the court lady to enter. After the court lady entered, Yingyu and Yingshuang received her at the door. Without a word, the court lady presented the box to Xi. Rongyu swiftly intercepted, knocking the box away with a palm strike. The next moment, they realized something was wrong. As the box shattered, the powder inside dispersed. Yingshuang exclaimed, It's poison. Yingyu's face paled. Before she could react, it was too late. Watching the two skilled maids fall, the court lady approached Xai's bed to check her condition. She had fainted, her face flushed. The court lady turned to the window and said, "All right, the rest is up to you, Jiyu Gongzi." Jiyu Qingshu looked at the unconscious Xi and sneered. If not for Xi, he wouldn't be in his current situation. His beloved would not have been killed by Shi Zhengwang. Nor would she have ended up in a brothel. He would avenge everything now. Jiyu Qingshu planned his revenge, seizing the opportunity on her wedding night. In his desperation, he even contemplated suicide. Unbeknownst to him, he had fallen into a trap. He watched as the court lady and she collapsed. Jiyu Qingshu approached Xi, his face filled with malice. "If you hadn't ruined my reputation and killed my child, I wouldn't be where I am today. How can I let go of my hatred if I don't destroy you?" Jiyu Qings's anger grew, fueled by the loss of his beloved, his unborn child, and the previous assault at the palace. All blame fell upon Xi. He saw only the woman in front of him, a beautiful flower, oblivious to how he had brought it upon himself. He would take revenge. Just as Jiyu Qingshu lunged at Xi, a hidden weapon flew from Xai's sleeve, striking Jiyu Qings's chest. She sat up. Jiyu Qingshu was stunned. "How?" She smiled mockingly. "Jiyu Gongzi, you are quite capable. You infiltrated the Wang Fu on my wedding night. There must be an accomplice inside." Jiyu Qingshu clutched his chest, his face ashen. He realized he had been tricked. He gritted his teeth. "You tricked me." Xai's expression turned cold. "I tricked you. Did I invite you to the Shizeng Wang Fu to die?" Jiyu Qingshu knew he was defeated and injured, and needed to escape. But turning around, he saw Rongyu and Yingyu. "Jiyu Gongzi, where are you going? You don't think a little poison could stop us?" Yingyu then turned to Shi, "Wang Fei, what should we do with him?" She didn't report to Rongyu, but smiled coldly. "It's simple. Break his limbs and hide him under the bed." Jiyu Qingshu was incredulous. "I haven't seen you for a few days, and you've become so vicious." She raised an eyebrow. I vicious? If I'm not mistaken, someone has already reported this to the palace, claiming the Shizeng Wangfei had a secret meeting on her wedding night. Then the Wang Ye will bring the guards to investigate. I might be executed. You still dare call me vicious after doing such a thing? She spoke calmly and clearly. Jiyu Qings's face turned pale, covered in cold sweat. Before he could react, footsteps were heard outside. He desperately shouted, "You're going to regret this," but Yingyu slapped him. Yingyu and Yingshuang shoved Jiyu Qingshu under the bed while complaining. He planned to die with the Wangfei and make a big scene. He wouldn't dare suicide. The emperor probably promised not to save him. She looked at Jiyu Qingshu with disgust. Reflecting on his desperate reaction, she internally cursed her poor judgment. Rongyu and the guards arrived outside Xai's chamber. The emperor arrived, feigning concern for Rongyu. "I don't want to make a joke of the royal uncle, but the more we conceal this, the more suspicious people will be." Rongyu glanced coldly at Rongyu without speaking. The emperor continued, "This concerns the imperial family's dignity, and I hope the royal uncle understands." Rongyu didn't respond, ordering Qingyang to guard all exits of the Shizeng Wangfu. No one was permitted to leave. Qingyang immediately obeyed. Rongyu stepped forward, intending to push open the door. "I'll give you an explanation today." Behind him, Rong Chuyun's face showed a hint of barely detectable smugness. However, before Rongyu could push, the door opened from within. Yingyu looked at the group with an innocent face. "Your Highness, Your Majesty, are you here to disturb the wedding night?" Rongyu asked calmly, "Is the princess consort all right?" Yinyu's expression remained normal, showing no sign of anything amiss. "The princess consort is a little hungry. I was just going to get her some warm food." Behind them, Rong Chuyun felt something was wrong. According to his plan, the planted women should have rendered Nan Xi incapacitated by now. Why was everything normal? What was Jiyu Qingshu doing? This man wanted to ruin the former young mistress, but his scheme ended up backfiring spectacularly. Not only were his limbs intact, even death became a luxury. When Rong Chuyun saw Yinyu calmly open the door, he realized something was amiss. He wondered, what was that useless Jiyu Qingshu doing? He watched Rongyu enter the room with suspicion. Inside, everything was normal. There was no sign of a distressed bride. Nan Xi asked Rongyu innocently, "Didn't you go to greet the emperor? Why are you back so soon?" Rongyu simply said he was afraid she would be bored and came to check on her. Then, he pointedly asked, did anyone come by just now? Rong Yu naturally trusted Nan Xi. This question was directed at Rong Chuyun. Rong Chuyun had already broken out in a cold sweat. Nan Xi also feigned ignorance, saying innocently, no one came. Only Yin Yu and In Shuang were here. In Shuang immediately added, I've been here the whole time. No one has come in. Rong Yu turned to look at the people behind him, his eyes filled with killing intent. He had deliberately left the door ajar when he entered, so as to clear Nan Xi's name in front of everyone. Clearly, someone was deliberately trying to cause trouble on their wedding night, and given Rong Yu's arrival, Rong Chuyun couldn't escape suspicion. Rong Chuyun, his face pale, immediately shifted the blame. He pointed at the guard who had reported the news. Today's incident was caused by this person's false accusations. His crime deserves severe punishment. The guard instantly knelt down, begging, Your Majesty, spare my life. This wasn't my intention. Rong Chuyun, fearing the guard might reveal more, hastily ordered him dragged out and silenced. Rong Yu immediately intervened, Your Majesty, he is a member of Prince Shizheng's residence. It's my responsibility to punish him, not yours. He then ordered his men to remove the guard's jaw and take him away to be confined, pending further investigation. Rong Yu didn't bother with the emperor and his entourage any longer and returned to the room. Rong Chuyun, as the emperor, felt somewhat embarrassed, but with his plan having failed, he couldn't make a fuss. He politely excused himself, saying he would return to the palace and not disturb their wedding night. Yin Yu returned with snacks just in time to see the emperor and his entourage leaving. She peeked out to make sure they were gone, before returning to the room. Inside, In Shuang helped Jiyu Qingshu out from under the bed. Nan Xi glanced at Jiyu Qingshu and asked Rong Yu, Did you come to the room just now? Rong Yu's silence fueled her suspicion, and she grew angrier about the attempt to frame her. Nan Yu had used the same dosage when he framed Nan Xi before. She couldn't forgive the fact that this despicable method was being used again. Taking his silence as confirmation, Nan Xi teased, So you did come in. What do you think we should do now? Throw him and me into the dungeon together. Rong Yu reached out and gently pinched her chin. Don't talk nonsense. I don't suspect you. I just wanted them to witness your innocence. I don't want your reputation damaged by such schemes. Nan Xi cupped his face and leaned in. I understand your intentions, my lord. I was just joking. Ying Hong stepped forward. Your Highness, how should we deal with this man? The princess consort initially wanted to break his limbs and throw him out, but she was worried about the emperor's spies. So we hid him under the bed. Rong Yu glanced coldly at Jiyu Qingshu. He wouldn't let him die so easily. Do as the princess consort said. Break his limbs, lock him in the dungeon. And we'll deal with him tomorrow. Ying Hong and Ying Li immediately dragged Jiyu Qingshu out, leaving the newlyweds alone. After the door closed, Rong Yu's expression softened. He embraced the woman he loved so deeply, his gaze burning with passion. Nan Xi blushed, softly calling his name. Rong Yu's heart melted, and he leaned down, unable to contain himself. The red curtains fell, and the temperature in the room gradually rose. The atmosphere was ambiguous and intoxicating. Just as Rong Yu and Nan Xi were lost in passion, Qing Yang's anxious voice rang out, Your Highness, I've sealed off all exits from the residence, but the emperor and his entourage insist on leaving. I can't stop them. Rong Yu's hand, which was on Nan Xi's waist, froze. His flushed face now held a trace of anger. Nan Xi chuckled. Go and see what's happening, my lord. I'll wait for you here. Prince Shizheng finally didn't have to hold back anymore. On their wedding night, he passionately embraced his princess consort. His hot breath enveloped her, leaving Nan Xi's mind blank. She had forgotten the unpleasantness of the earlier scheme. Just as Rong Yu and Nan Xi were about to continue, an untimely announcement came from outside. Qing Yang reported that the emperor's entourage was trying to leave despite being stopped. Rong Yu, his passion momentarily extinguished, frowned. Nan Xi said softly, My lord, go and see what's happening. We can continue when you return. I'll wait for you. Rong Yu's mind echoed her words, continue when you return. After composing himself, he walked out. Qing Yang noticed his displeased expression, and wondered why the prince seemed so gloomy. But he still asked, Your Highness, should we continue to block the exits and investigate, or should we let them leave? Rong Yu, already having a plan, instructed Qing Yang and Ying Shuang to find the servant girl, who delivered the gift, and then detain Wei Tongling, removing his jaw and putting him in the dungeon. The emperor's entourage could be ignored after their identities were confirmed. Qingyang wasn't surprised by Rong Yu's decision to detain Wei Tongling. He wanted to ask for clarification, but saw Rong Yu's cold gaze and decided against it. He accepted the order and left. After turning around, Qingyang also felt a chill. Could Wei Tongling be the spy in the residence? Although he didn't know what Wei Tongling had done, if the prince wanted to detain him, there must be a reason. After arranging everything, Rong Yu returned to Nan Xi and instructed Yin Yu not to let anyone in, specifically emphasizing, especially that golden-haired Qing Miao. Yin Yu blushed and acknowledged the order. She understood her master's meaning. After all, the first night was precious and shouldn't be disturbed by irrelevant people. Seeing Nan Xi, Rong Yu's passion reignited, but mindful of her feelings, he asked if she wanted some warm water. Nan Xi blushed and said coquettishly, "Husband, would you carry me there?" As soon as she spoke, she felt herself being lifted. Rong Yu, unable to wait any longer, carried her towards the hot spring. In the jade-like pool, Nan Xi blushed and didn't dare look up at Rong Yu, whose eyes were filled with passion. Rong Yu gazed at her with adoration and tenderness. As his eyes wandered over her body, he became increasingly captivated. However, his love for Nan Xi was both cherished and restrained. Unable to bear the unspoken tension, Nan Xi leaned in, and Rong Yu instinctively embraced her tighter. Their hearts beat as one, sending ripples through the water. After their tender moment, Rong Yu wrapped Nan Xi in a robe, and carried her back to their room. Anticipating what was to come, Nan Xi was filled with both excitement and anticipation. Rong Yu held her, as if she were the most precious treasure in the world. Back in the room, he gently placed her down on the bed. With his voice low and husky, he whispered sweet nothings to her. Nan Xi completely surrendered to his tender embrace. Inside the gently swaying red curtains, her long black hair spread across the pillow like a silken waterfall. Rong Yu cherished this intimate moment. Nan Xi's beauty was breathtaking, and he almost couldn't bear to disturb it. Nan Xi softly called him husband. Rong Yu's heart skipped a beat. He had finally become her husband, and she was finally his wife. In this life and the next. For all eternity, she would be his only wife. Unable to control himself any longer, he began to undress. Inside the room, bathed in the warm glow of the red candles, the outside world ceased to exist. The red curtains swayed gently. Within, their bodies intertwined. Rong Yu explored her depths, and Nan Xi was ushered into a new world. The madam, who looked down on the injured servant girl, was now nothing without her. Debts piled up, and she was powerless to repay them. The man who abandoned the injured servant girl's daughter fared even worse. Not only were his limbs broken, and he was thrown into the dungeon, but in the hands of Prince Shizeng, even death became a luxury. While Nan Xi and Rong Yu were sharing an intimate moment, Qingyang rushed towards their room. "Master, something's wrong." Before he could reach the door, a figure appeared. Yin Yu covered his mouth. "Quiet. Do you want to disturb the master's wedding night? You'll be sent to the border tomorrow." Qingyang was anxious. The servant girl the master was looking for was dead, and the lead was now broken. Such a big matter needed to be reported immediately. Yin Yu was unconcerned. "So she's dead. What's the big deal?" "The prince specifically instructed me not to let anyone disturb them, especially you." Qingyang was confused. Was the wedding night more important than the death of the servant girl? Yin Yu looked at him, as if he were a fool. Of course. A mere servant girl is nothing compared to the prince's wedding night. Don't cause any more trouble tonight. For the first time, Yin Yu questioned her master's judgment. Why would he choose such an idiot as Qingyang? Inside, the couple continued their passionate embrace. Rong Yu thoughtfully asked if Nan Xi felt any discomfort. Nan Xi, her eyes slightly glazed over, said she was just a little tired. Rong Yu, his eyes filled with tenderness, suggested she sleep. Nan Xi wrapped her arms around his neck. "No, I want you to stay with me." Rong Yu's passion flared up again. Suppressing his desire, he gently held her close. The next morning, Nan Xi screamed when she woke up. Rong Yu rushed over, worried. "Xi, are you still in pain? Do you want to sleep a little longer?" But Nan Xi remembered the bridal customs. "According to royal tradition, shouldn't I go and greet the Empress Dowager today? I'm doing this for you. She's your aunt. After all, I don't want you to be criticized." Rong Yu didn't care about the Empress Dowager. "Don't worry about her. Just rest. You don't need to go anywhere." Nan Xi suddenly remembered her father and asked about his situation. Rong Yu gently stroked her hair. After Yuan Shi left the Nan residence, debtors began hounding him. Nan Chengshang had previously treated his colleagues to lavish meals, and Li Shi and Nan Jiao had extravagant tastes in clothing. Bills piled up, all of which Yuan Shi had promised to pay. Nan Chengshang, clueless about the value of money, had always scoffed at mundane matters like finances. He was lavish when entertaining guests, but now that Yuan Shi was gone, he had no money to repay his debts. With the previous bills unpaid, Li Shi wanted to buy more earrings at a jewelry store but was refused credit, leading to an argument. She was mocked by other ladies present. Hearing this, Nan Xi sighed. I didn't expect my father's life to become so miserable. He's nothing without my mother. After Rong Yu finished explaining, he said he had some matters to attend to. Nan Xi, remembering the events of last night, assumed he was referring to that. She then thought of something else and, with a charming smile, beckoned him closer. I have a secret to tell you. Rong Yu leaned in, curious. Nan Xi, last night was quite enjoyable, Rong Yu whispered in his ear. A blush instantly crept up Nan Xi's face, as he felt a warmth spread through him. He then whispered back, my lord, I shall perform even better in the future. Rong Yu, ever straightforward, replied, I look forward to it, my husband. He gently caressed Nan Xi's face, adding, rest well. He'll be back soon from the dungeons. Watching Rong Yu leave, Nan Xi pondered Jiyu Qingshu's fate. He knew Jiyu Qingshu would suffer terribly in Rong Yu's hands. They both harbored resentment towards him. Rong Yu paused at the door. Turning back, he asked Nan Xi, do you have any last words for Jiyu Qingshu? Nan Xi replied frankly, my lord, there's no need to show him mercy. He deserves his fate. I won't feel a shred of pity, compared to what Jiyu Qingshu had done, compared to Rong Yu's innocent and tragic death in the past. Even if Jiyu Qingshu were to be tortured to death, Nan Xi would feel no remorse. Jiyu Qingshu was finally experiencing a fate worse than death. He had willingly been used to seek revenge on his ex-lover. Now, enduring torture in the dungeons, the person he sought revenge against had already moved on and was planning his next move. Prince Regent's dungeons were heavily guarded by his personal secret guards, not ordinary soldiers. Under their strict surveillance, not even a single word could be smuggled in or out. As the heavy dungeon door creaked open, the guard turned around with apprehension, then immediately bowed deeply. Your Highness. Rong Yu descended the stairs, followed by Qingyang. His face was impassive, yet his presence exuded an intimidating aura. The guard quickly reported, greetings, Your Highness. Xuanling has investigated last night's incident. Xuanling reported that Jiyu Qingshu had infiltrated the Emperor's guards and had met with Cheng Xiang 3 times. The consort from Cheng Xiang's house had been poisoned under the Empress Dowager's order, but was already dead when found. Rong Yu pondered briefly, then ordered Xuanling to bring her to Jiyu Qingshu. Jiyu Qingshu, his limbs broken and tied to an iron frame. His face pale and contorted in pain, was barely conscious. Even Qingyang was startled by his wretched state. He hadn't even been tortured yet, and was already like this. Qingyang didn't know that for Jiyu Qingshu, a frail scholar, simply having his limbs broken was almost unbearable. Bound in this position, even without torture, it was a living hell. Xuanling approached and ruthlessly yanked Jiyu Qingshu's hair up, forcing him to look up. Jiyu Qingshu groaned weakly. He froze when he met Rong Yu's cold gaze. He pleaded, Your Highness, spare me. I was only following orders. Rong Yu, fully aware of whose orders he was following, simply uttered, hit him. The guards immediately lashed out with whips soaked in a special concoction. The searing pain exploded on Jiyu Qingshu's body like 1,000 needles. The special medicine amplified the agony far beyond the pain of broken limbs. Jiyu Qingshu, who had never experienced such torment, could only scream. After dozens of lashes, Jiyu Qingshu fainted from the pain, understanding what true suffering meant. But the ruthless Rong Yu wasn't finished. He ordered the guards to revive him with water and break his legs. Jiyu Qingshu's face was ashen, his mind reeling. He could barely speak, only weakly pleading, no no. But the beating continued, each strike echoing through the dungeon, leaving behind only heart-wrenching screams. Had Jiyu Qingshu known the consequences of offending Nan Xi, he wouldn't have dared, even for mountains of gold. But there are no second chances, no regrets in this world. While Jiyu Qingshu was suffering in the dungeons, Nan Xi was just waking up. As Yin Yu combed Nan Xi's hair, he asked, my lady, why not sleep a little longer? Nan Xi shook his head. It wouldn't be proper to stay in bed so late on the second day of my marriage. Yin Yu replied instantly, who would dare gossip? I'll deal with anyone who does. Nan Xi chuckled. Yinyu, why are you so good to me? Yinyu, taken aback by the question, answered honestly, because you're good to us, unlike other nobles. They look down on us servants, but you're different. Nan Xi raised an eyebrow playfully. I was quite a handful during my first month here. Have you forgotten that already? Yinyu bristled. Of course not. The one chosen by His Highness must be extraordinary. One cannot judge based on initial impressions. Shuang interrupted. The Empress Dowager's eunuch, Pang Gonggong, requests an audience. Nan Xi chuckled. The Empress Dowager again. She's probably upset I didn't pay my respects this morning. Cheng Xiang's wife had sent a lavish gift to Cheng Xiang's residence. This prompted the Prince Regent to follow suit. Faced with the troublesome Empress Dowager, the Prince Regent had also prepared a gift for her celebration, a gift she would never forget. Upon hearing of Pang Gonggong's arrival, Nan Xi understood. The Empress Dowager was indeed reminding him about the missed morning greeting. Yinyu grumbled, why can't the Empress Dowager just enjoy her life at her age? He could see that Rongyu held no animosity towards the Emperor, but the Emperor and Empress Dowager couldn't seem to grasp that, always stirring up trouble. Nan Xi nodded in agreement. Rongyu may seem cold, but he doesn't provoke others. The Emperor, however, sees Rongyu's military power as a threat. Such a narrow-minded ruler, what a pity. By then, Yinyu had finished dressing Nanxi's hair. Nan Xi instructed Shuang to have Pang Gonggong wait in the front hall. Since I'm free, I might as well see him. Moments later, Nan Xi arrived at the pavilion in the courtyard. He didn't go to see Pang Gonggong directly, but instead had him summoned while he leisurely sipped tea. Soon, Pang Gonggong arrived with 4 younger eunuchs, each carrying trays laden with gifts for Nan Xi. Nan Xi went straight to the point. What brings you here? Pang Gonggong. Pang Gonggong, always cautious around the Prince Regent's residence, didn't dare show any disrespect. He bowed and said, the Empress Dowager had these gifts prepared early this morning for your highness. She intended to present them during your morning greeting. But you didn't arrive. Thus, she sent this old servant to deliver them. Though polite, Yinyu could hear the underlying message. That Nan Xi had disrespected the Empress Dowager by making her wait. Truly, the Empress Dowager's servant was skilled in veiled insults. Nan Xi caught the implication, but remained unfazed. Please thank the Empress Dowager for her kindness. I will pay my respects to her with the Prince Regent when we have time. Pang Gonggong bowed and left, inwardly cursing Nanxi's arrogance. When we have time, indeed. How dare the Prince Regent's wife be so disrespectful? Nan Xi ignored him, simply nodding before resuming his tea. As Pang Gonggong and the eunuchs departed, Yinyu asked if Nan Xi wanted to eat something. Nan Xi declined, saying he would wait for Rongyu. Yinyu then brought out some pastries, suggesting Nan Xi eat something while waiting, as Rongyu was dealing with those 2 scoundrels in the dungeons, and might be delayed. Nan Xi simply smiled. He'll be here soon. Yinyu was puzzled. The next moment, he sensed someone behind him. Rongyu had arrived. Seeing Nanxi smile, he asked, what's so amusing? Nan Xi smiled. It seems our hearts are connected. Were these pastries prepared by you? He asked. The kitchen suddenly sent so much food. I guessed you were coming. Rongyu nodded. My wife is indeed clever. As Rongyu sat down, Nan Xi performed his wifely duties. You've worked hard, my lord. Let me serve you. He picked up a dumpling and offered it to Rongyu. Rongyu took a bite without hesitation. The newlyweds were more affectionate than ever. Nan Xi, noticing Rongyu's changed clothes, asked, have you returned from the dungeons? Rongyu nodded. The smell there was unpleasant. I didn't want to offend your nose. Speaking of the dungeons, Nan Xi leaned closer and asked, how are those 2 doing? Rongyu picked up a pastry for Nan Xi while replying, Jiyu Qingshu is still alive. I have use for him. Nan Xi was puzzled. Why keep such scum alive? It's just a waste of resources. Rongyu had a plan. The Empress Dowager's birthday is in 6 days. Jiyu Qingshu is my gift to her. Such a present during her joyous celebration will surely be unforgettable. Nan Xi was impressed. The gift-giving tactic was truly effective. His own mother had similarly made a statement during his father's birthday celebration. Now, Rongyu was targeting the Empress Dowager. He was truly his mother's son. Thinking of this, Nan Xi's eyes sparkled with admiration. My lord is truly decisive. Every move is a fatal blow. Rongyu and Nan Xi were enjoying their intimate moment in the pavilion, when an urgent report arrived. Qilin brought news from the front lines. The Shu army was amassing at the border, adding elite troops to the Beijiang Pass. The Crown Prince of Shu, Yi Yang, and his younger brother, Yi Qingchen, had entered Dazhou territory 4 days ago, and were expected to arrive in the capital in 3 days. After hearing Qilin's report, Rongyu, his expression grave, asked if the information had been relayed to the emperor. Qilin confirmed it had. Rongyu instructed him to prepare the troops for potential deployment. Qilin was surprised. Your Highness, you just got married, and now you're going to war. Rongyu intended to have Qilin coordinate with the Shadow Guard for the deployment, but it wasn't certain yet. This was just preparation. Based on prior intelligence, the Shu army wasn't actually intending to wage war, but rather to pressure Dazhou into an alliance. Qilin understood Rongyu's intentions and bowed, saying he would begin preparations. Rongyu reassured him, don't worry too much. Lin Fan will be back in 3 to 5 days. He can assist you. Nan Xi watched Qilin leave, a trace of worry in his eyes. Rongyu comforted him. Don't worry. I'll go to the study and then to the palace. If you're bored, have Yin Yu and Yin Shuang take you out for a stroll. Seeing Rongyu's composed demeanor, Nan Xi felt reassured. I won't go out today. I'm a bit sore after yesterday. I'll just rest in the residence. Rongyu embraced Nan Xi, reluctant to leave. I'll be back as soon as possible. Nan Xi reminded him not to let anyone disturb him after he left for the study. Later, in the study, Yunting reported to Rongyu. The Shadow Guard intercepted a letter on April th. It's a letter from Prince Ning of Dazhou to the Emperor of Shu. Naturally, the letter Yunting presented was a copy. The original was already in the Shu Emperor's hands. Rongyu's face darkened as he read, realizing the problem. How could Prince Ning be so foolish as to stamp his seal on a letter to the Shu Emperor? If the letter fell into the wrong hands, it would be evidence of treason. How could he be so stupid? Yunting agreed. This subordinate believes the Emperor is framing Prince Ning. Shall I investigate? Rongyu shook his head. No need. Let Yunting stay in the capital for now. Consider it a vacation. He then asked, what's the story with the princess from Shu? Yunting's expression turned serious. Her name is Yi Qingchen. She's renowned for her beauty and is skilled in seduction. She's said to be irresistible. Rongyu's expression grew grim. Yunting, stay in the residence and protect the princess consort. I'm going to the palace. Cheng Xiang's daughter had already developed a relationship with Cheng Xiang's nephew. Yet, the emperor insisted on adding fuel to the fire. Not only did he send the wedding gifts to Cheng Xiang's residence, but he also planned to send the prince regent away to war. Rong Chuyan and several ministers and princes were discussing the Shu matter in the imperial study. A loud announcement broke the discussion. The prince regent has arrived. The room fell silent. Rongyu entered, followed by Qingyang, his expression impassive. The princes and ministers hastily bowed. Your Highness, Rong Chuyun's forced smile was evident. Congratulations on your marriage, imperial uncle. I just sent a congratulatory gift to your residence. Nan Xiang has taken it back with him. Don't forget to retrieve the gift when you and imperial uncle's wife return to the Cheng family residence in 3 days. Qingyang sensed something amiss. The prince regent held significant power, rivaling the emperor. Why was the emperor speaking of gifts in such a manner? The other ministers also felt uneasy, sensing the emperor's intentions. Everyone knew about the recent turmoil in Cheng Xiang's residence. Now, the emperor was not only sending a gift to the prince regent's wife, but also having it delivered to Cheng Xiang's residence, with instructions to retrieve it during the customary post-wedding visit. But Rongyu remained calm. He instructed Qingyang to accompany Cheng Gonggong to Cheng Xiang's residence and retrieve the gifts, ensuring nothing was missing. Rongyu emphasized nothing missing. He knew the intentions of those in Cheng Xiang's household, and he knew Nan Xi's thoughts. Even though they weren't short of money, they wouldn't let Cheng Xiang take advantage of them. Qingyang immediately agreed. The other ministers remained silent. Who would dare interfere in the power struggle between the emperor and the prince regent? If the emperor's earlier actions were questionable, the prince regent was now openly defying him. Cheng Fu, especially, felt the pressure. He turned to gauge the emperor's reaction. Rong Chuyan, unable to rebuke Rongyu, directed his anger at Cheng Fu. The Prince Regent has given you an order. Why are you still here? Cheng Fu stammered, your servant will go at once. After Cheng Fu and Xingyang left, Rong Chuyan suppressed his anger and apologized to Rongyu. I was inconsiderate. Please don't take it to heart, Imperial Uncle. Rongyu nodded indifferently. It's fine. Let's put that aside for now and discuss the Shu situation. Rong Chuyan raised his teacup to his lips, concealing a sneer. I believe Shu intends to provoke a war. I'd like you, Imperial Uncle, to lead the troops and defend the border. What are your thoughts? Rongyu disagreed. The Shu Crown Prince and Princess are coming to the capital to negotiate an alliance, not to start a war. Even if we need to suppress their troops, I have suitable candidates. You needn't worry, Your Majesty. Rong Chuyan raised an eyebrow. Does Your Highness have specific generals in mind? Rongyu nodded. Indeed. I have two capable generals, Xiaoyong and Shan Zan. They can defend the northern border for me. Rong Chuyan clenched his fists. He had hoped to send Rongyu away from the capital. Now, not only had he failed, but Rongyu was also given the opportunity to showcase his generals. But Rong Chuyan said nothing more, instead glancing at the seventh prince, Chu Rui. Chu Rui immediately understood. Minister Rong started flattering, Your Highness is the god of war of Dazhou. Only when you personally lead the troops can His Majesty rest assured. Prince Rong cut him off. Enough with the flattery. I have my own plans. You don't need to worry. The atmosphere in the study became tense again, as several officials fell silent. Emperor Rong Chuyan felt awkward for both of them, and found himself a way out. Your Highness is indeed more experienced in leading troops. I trust your judgment and won't interfere. Seeing the matter resolved, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. All hail His Majesty's wisdom, but Rong Chuyan was inwardly fuming. What wisdom? It's all nonsense. Which emperor in Dazhou's history has been more frustrated than me? Minister Cheng was looking forward to the lavish wedding gifts for his daughter's marriage to Prince Ning. He didn't expect to get nothing. Prince Rong took not only the original dowry, but also the gifts the emperor had privately intended for Minister Cheng. It was like adding insult to injury. Madame Li stared wide-eyed at the delivered chests of jewelry and gold. She couldn't believe it. Are these all rewards from His Majesty? She had thought that becoming Minister Cheng's wife would allow her to socialize with other noble ladies. However, the reality was that various restaurants and shops kept asking for payment. They couldn't even pay off their debts, let alone live a luxurious life. Now, seeing the chests full of treasures, her eyes lit up. She touched the treasures greedily, thinking, with these, I can finally look like a proper mistress of the house. Cheng Xingji, seeing her behaving like a country bumpkin, felt ashamed. Have you no composure? Do you have to be so excited over a few rewards? He then ordered the servants to store everything in the treasury and not to touch them. Just then, Xingyang entered. Hold on. My lord has an order. These are all to be sent to the Prince Rong's residence. Madame Li, who had almost tasted victory, couldn't bear to see it slip away. What are you talking about? These are rewards from His Majesty to the minister. How can you? Xingyang replied calmly, you're mistaken. These are His Majesty's wedding gifts for the princess consort. You can ask Eunuch Cheng. Eunuch Cheng, standing behind him, looked awkward but confirmed, indeed. Madame Li's face turned pale. Her mood plummeted. But Eunuch Cheng represented the emperor, so she dared not argue. As the guards carried the chests out, Cheng Xingji, forgetting his usual refined demeanor, shouted, there's 500 taels of gold and silver in there. Those are rewards for me, not part of the dowry. Cheng Xingji knew about the gold and silver. The emperor used this opportunity to reward him for his service, essentially making up for the dowry. Thus Cheng Xingji, disregarding his face, wanted that 500 taels, but Xingyang firmly refused. Minister, that's not possible. I didn't hear His Majesty mention that when I was with Eunuch Cheng. Cheng Xingji argued, His Majesty's reward to me is none of your business. Xingyang remained calm. 500 taels of gold is no small sum in the treasury. Even His Majesty can't just give it away without a reason. Minister, can you tell me why His Majesty rewarded you with that gold and silver? You can't say he's robbing the treasury, can you? Cheng Xingji was speechless. There was no real reason for that part of the reward. He couldn't say it was to compensate for the dowry. Xingyang waved his hand. Since the minister can't explain, he'll just take everything back as dowry. Farewell. Cheng Xingji felt like he had swallowed a bitter pill. Madam Li wailed, Minister, how are we supposed to live? Prince Rong is too much. He's bullying us. Cheng Xingji's face was dark with anger and embarrassment. He considered himself above such matters. He should be focusing on court affairs, not material possessions. Now, he had argued with a mere guard over money and lost. If he hadn't tried, he would have continued to struggle with debts. But now, he had tried and failed, losing both face and money. Back at the Prince Rong's residence, Qing Yang reported the incident to Nan Xi. Nan Xi was surprised. You took all the emperor's rewards for Minister Cheng. Isn't that a blatant provocation? Qing Yang snorted. So what? Scumbags like him deserve to be punished. You should have seen Madam Li's face. Nan Xi inwardly applauded but teased. I didn't know you were so ruthless. Qing Yang was puzzled. Was I wrong? Qing Yang didn't really need the gifts, knowing Minister Cheng was struggling. But remembering the injustice Nan Xi's mother suffered, he felt the need to teach them a lesson. Not a single coin would be left for them. In the imperial study, Prince Rong finalized the expedition plans. Rong Chuyun, though frustrated, couldn't object. The reception of the Xicheng envoys will be handled by Prince Ning. Prince Ning, in charge of the Ministry of Rights, accepted the task. But he felt uneasy, suspecting the envoys' intentions. Leaving the imperial study, Rong Chuning followed Prince Rong, expressing his concerns and seeking advice. Prince Rong warned him, the traitors are collaborating with Nan Fang. This time, it's a big conspiracy. Rong Chuning was confused. Traitors? Nan Fang? What do you mean? He felt uneasy. A while later, Prince Rong returned to his residence. Qing Yang, having reported the incident, sensed a familiar presence. Turning around, he saw his master. He quickly bowed. Nan Xi nodded. Good work. Prince Rong walked over with a smile. Nan Xi greeted him and offered him tea. You're back early. Have some tea. Prince Rong took the tea and embraced Nan Xi. I missed you. Nan Xi leaned against him. I missed you too. After a moment, Prince Rong asked, I brought you a few people. Want to meet them? Nan Xi looked in the direction he pointed. 3 familiar faces appeared. Zhu Xiang, Hai Tang, and a man. They knelt. Greetings, Your Highness, Princess Consort. Nan Xi was touched. He had mentioned wanting them to come to the residence, and Prince Rong actually brought them. Prince Rong smiled. I remember what you said. 3 days later, the Xicheng envoys arrived in the capital. Crowds gathered to watch. Nan Xi watched from a tea house. That carriage must be carrying the princess. I wonder what she looks like. Want to guess who she's here for? Prince Rong assured him, she's not here for me. Nan Xi was doubtful. How do you know? I think you're her most suitable target. Princess He Qing's ambitions were well known. She and the princess consort were rivals. Her target was neither the emperor nor Prince Rong, but involved a past grievance. The crown prince of Xicheng entered the palace with Princess He Qing and the envoys. Nan Xi, in the tea house, playfully asked Prince Rong to guess the princess target. Prince Rong reiterated, Don't worry, she's not here for me. He then asked Nan Xi why he thought the princess was interested in him. Nan Xi teased, You're handsome. Most women would be captivated by your looks. Prince Rong preened. I don't need their admiration. As long as you don't leave me, that's enough. Nan Xi blushed. I'd never betray you, even if I betrayed the whole world. Prince Rong, wanting to hear more sweet nothings, held his hand. Tell me more. Nan Xi continued, You're a capable warrior, and you're not entangled in messy affairs. You're one of a kind. That princess must know this too. Prince Rong held his hand to his chest. I don't need anyone else, only you. He then reassured Nan Xi, Don't worry, that princess isn't interested in me. Nan Xi, seeing his certainty, asked, Are you so sure? Does she already have someone in mind? Prince Rong, adding food to Nan Xi's plate, whispered, You'll find out tonight. It has something to do with the 9 Heavens Pavilion. Nan Xi was surprised. She's connected to the 9 Heavens Pavilion. He knew Prince Rong had everything under control, but another question arose. How did you become the master of the 9 Heavens Pavilion? Prince Rong remained mysterious. You'll find out eventually. It's not the right time yet. This piqued Nan Xi's curiosity. Not the right time again. What secrets are you hiding? Prince Rong didn't explain, his gaze falling on Nan Xi's hand. He traced his finger on Nan Xi's palm. Want to go to the banquet tonight? Nan Xi was interested in Princess He Qing, but knew women couldn't attend such events. Prince Rong said domineeringly, the Empress can attend. So can you, if you want. Nan Xi smiled. Such a generous invitation. I wouldn't dare refuse. Trouble was brewing. The Emperor hosted a banquet for the officials and princes. Only the Empress and Nan Xi were present among the women. Nan Xi sat beside Prince Rong on the left. The right seats were empty, reserved for the Xiqing crown prince and princess. Soon, they arrived. The princess wore a veil. Crown Prince Yang addressed the Emperor, Your Majesty, I come on behalf of my father, offering my younger sister, Princess He Qing, to you. We hope you'll accept her and forge an alliance between our two nations. Even with the veil, Princess He Qing's beauty was apparent. The Emperor's eyes lit up. He tried to maintain composure. The princess lives up to her reputation. Pleased with this alliance. He then invited them to be seated. Yi Yang and He Qing thanked him. They sat on the right. He Qing's presence was striking. She noticed Nan Xi and stared. Nan Xi felt uncomfortable. He Qing spoke, It's surprising to see a woman other than the Empress at this banquet. I've never heard of such gender equality in Dazhou. Her words, though seemingly innocent, touched a sensitive topic. No one dared to respond. Prince Yan stepped forward. Princess, you misunderstand. This is the princess consort. And also the daughter of the Nine Heavens Pavilion. She is entitled to be here. He Qing's gaze sharpened. The daughter of the Nine Heavens Pavilion. What a coincidence. Nan Xi, clueless, was puzzled by her words. The beautiful princess was offered to the emperor, but the empress wanted to betroth her to Prince Rong. She hoped to kill two birds with one stone, but neither were easy targets. He Qing's expression changed when she learned Nan Xi's identity. She seemed to recognize him. Prince Rong remained silent. He seemed indifferent. The atmosphere grew tense. Offending Prince Rong was not wise. Yi Yang quickly intervened, telling He Qing to behave. She remained indifferent, sipping her tea. Yi Yang apologized. My sister spoke out of turn. Please forgive her. He raised his cup. To your majesty and your highness. May our nations have peace. Rong Chuyan responded, to Prince Yi. Nan Xi realized Prince Rong's skill with words. Xiqing had just deployed troops, yet the crown prince spoke of peace. The empress, after surveying the room, suddenly addressed He Qing. Princess, you're of noble birth. I'm curious, are you interested in any of our princes? He Qing understood the implication. The empress didn't want her in the harem. But He Qing wouldn't give her face. My father offered me to his majesty, and yet you ask which prince I fancy. Are you worried I'll compete with you? This caused a stir. The officials realized the princess was challenging the empress. The empress hadn't expected such boldness. He Qing was openly defying her. She saw He Qing as a threat, a seductress who couldn't be allowed into the harem. She turned to Rong Chuyan. Your Majesty, the harem lacks a noble consort. The princess is of noble birth, she can't be a mere concubine. Rong Chuyan, though attracted to He Qing, played along. What title do you suggest, Empress? The Empress saw her chance. Prince Rong is esteemed, and his household is simple, with only the princess consort. Perhaps the princess could be his secondary consort. What do you think, princess consort? This was a double-edged sword, targeting both Nan Xi and He Qing. But Nan Xi refused to cooperate. There's no such thing as a secondary consort in our laws. Minister Cheng's recent actions have become a laughingstock. Surely, Your Majesty wouldn't want the princess to suffer the same fate. Cheng Xingji, exposed, jumped up. Nonsense. It's not your place to comment on my affairs. Prince Rong immediately defended Nan Xi. She's merely explaining the law. Minister Cheng, don't take it personally. Cheng Xingji was silenced by Prince Rong's words. He Qing spoke. Please calm down. Don't let me cause discord. Marriage cannot be forced. Perhaps you should hear my thoughts. Yi Yang tried to stop her, but she ignored him. Turning to Nan Xi, Yi Qingcheng asked, May I ask if the princess consort is unwilling to accept this arrangement, or unwilling to accept the king's sister? Nan Xi smiled faintly. Does the princess wish to hear a gentle answer, or a blunt one? Yi Qingcheng expressed interest in both. Nan Xi's expression remained calm. Frankly, Wang Ye and I love each other deeply. As long as he doesn't betray me, I will never betray him. We, as husband and wife, intend to grow old together, and there's no room for anyone else. After a moment of contemplation, a playful smile graced Yi Qingcheng's lips. Looking at Nan Xi with newfound admiration, she said, "That was the gentle version, I presume. Now, tell me the blunt one." Nan Xi's expression instantly turned serious. "I am a strong woman who protects what's mine. Anyone who sets their sights on my husband and wishes to become my sister will regret it." Her words caused the temperature in the hall to drop significantly. Both the Emperor and Empress were taken aback by Nan Xi's bluntness. Wang Ji, standing beside them, also frowned. He thought to himself, how can Nan Xi talk about love so shamelessly in public? She has no sense of propriety. Others instantly recalled the fate of Nan Xiang. Nan Xiang, having offended Nan Xi, was now working in a brothel. Because she was sent there by the king, everyone knew she would never recover her former status. People constantly mocked and bullied her, making her life a living hell. Rong Yu, however, was beaming, clearly pleased with his wife's public declaration of their love. Yi Qingcheng's smile deepened. Interesting. The princess consort's personality is quite to my liking. I suspect if I were to become her sister, my fate wouldn't be too tragic. The stunning princess was forced into an arranged marriage. The emperor, upon seeing her, desired her for himself. Unbeknownst to him, her heart belonged to Rong Yu, and she was waiting in the capital to stir up trouble. Hearing Nan Xi's words about not tolerating any sisters, Yi Qingcheng's amusement grew. The princess consort's personality is truly delightful. I doubt I'd fare too badly as her sister. Nan Xi looked at her with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. Is that so, princess? Yi Qingcheng smiled. Because, like you, I am a strong woman, possessive of what's mine, and I dislike sharing. So, if I promise not to harbor any romantic intentions towards the king, would the princess consort allow me to stay at the manor for a few days? Yi Yang's expression darkened. Qingcheng. What nonsense are you spouting? Your marriage concerns the peace between our two nations. You mustn't speak so carelessly. Yi Qingcheng waved her hand dismissively. Brother, calm yourself. You're an envoy now. Don't lose your composure. Nan Xi remained calm. She sensed a kindred spirit in the Shu princess. The claim of having no romantic interest in Rong Yu didn't seem entirely truthful. Besides, rumors suggested the Shu princess had another target, someone connected to the Jiuxia pavilion. Although she didn't know who this person was, Nan Xi felt a sense of camaraderie with Yi Qingcheng. Her attitude softened. As long as the princess doesn't target my husband, you can stay as long as you like. But if your words prove false, the manor's gates swing one way, easy to enter, difficult to leave. Yi Qingcheng reassured her. My greatest virtue is honesty. I wouldn't do anything to harm others for my own benefit. The hall was filled with dignitaries and nobles, their faces grim as they listened to this exchange. Yi Qingcheng, seemingly oblivious, declared, this banquet is dreadfully boring. I'm about to die of boredom. Princess consort, would you like to go out for a stroll? Nan Xi glanced at Rong Yu, who nodded reassuringly. Rong Chuyun smoothly intervened. The Empress Dowager has been asking about the princess consort. Princess, why don't you accompany the princess consort to visit her? I'll escort you back to the palace after the banquet. Nan Xi, playing the role of a gracious host, approached Yi Qingcheng. Princess, this way, please. Yi Qingcheng politely gestured, after you, princess consort. The scene sent chills down the spines of the onlookers. The willful princess and the audacious princess consort were openly defying the emperor. Yi Yang was furious. That damned Yi Qingcheng, so disrespectful in front of everyone. She's making me lose face. Nan Xi and Yi Qingcheng chatted as they walked towards the Empress Dowager's palace. Yi Qingcheng was forthright. I didn't come to Dazhou to become your emperor's concubine. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't bother visiting that old woman. Nan Xi chuckled. Don't worry, you might not even see her. Yi Qingcheng was slightly surprised. Will she deliberately avoid me? Is she going to make things difficult for me? Nan Xi shrugged. The Empress Dowager is the most esteemed woman in Dazhou. Isn't it normal for her to look down on those she deems unworthy? Yi Qingcheng scoffed. What a foolish woman. Even the officials of our tributary state no wrong use power in Dazhou. Yet, your Empress Dowager and Emperor only see him as a threat. Nan Xi smiled faintly. You said you didn't come here to be a concubine. I notice the Emperor seems quite taken with you. He probably wants you in his harem. But the Empress wouldn't allow it. Yi Qingcheng curled her lip. If I entered the palace, I'd turn the harem upside down. She'd probably lose her position as Empress. Of course, she wouldn't want that. As for the Emperor, he's just lustful. He might desire me, but I certainly don't desire him. Nan Xi, observing Yi Qingcheng's expressive face, couldn't help but remark, you're quite spirited. She was also curious about Yi Qingcheng's true purpose. What is your real reason for coming to Dazhou? Yi Qingcheng, who had been chatting animatedly, suddenly stopped. I'm here to find a runaway coward. When I catch him, I'll break his limbs and chain him up, letting him experience the true meaning of torture. The Empress Dowager, intending to intimidate Nan Xi, ended up humiliating herself. She lost face in front of consort Faping. Nan Xi and Yi Qingcheng strolled towards the Empress Dowager's palace, their casual conversation suggesting they viewed the visit as a mere formality. Yi Qingcheng declared she was in Dazhou to capture a runaway, intending to inflict brutal punishment. Nan Xi thought, what a fierce woman. Yi Qingcheng reassured Nan Xi that she would leave Dazhou after capturing her target, posing no threat to her and Rong Yu. Nan Xi, amused by Yi Qingcheng's confident tone, chuckled. Escaping Dazhou alone might not be as easy as you think, princess. Yi Qingcheng scoffed. Dazhou can't hold me. Besides, your Rong Yu wouldn't dare to stop me. Nan Xi's curiosity piqued. Yi Qingcheng's words suggested familiarity with Rong Yu. Do you know Rong Yu personally? Yi Qingcheng claimed she didn't know him personally, only that she had learned about him in the past. Nan Xi was even more intrigued. Not knowing him personally yet having learned about him. What does that mean? She chose not to pry. The princess clearly held secrets. And it wasn't her place to inquire. They reached the Empress Dowager's palace. A servant greeted them. Greetings, Princess Consort. Nan Xi stated her purpose. I've come to pay my respects to the Empress Dowager. Please inform her. Sorry, two concubines were attending to the Empress Dowager, massaging her legs as she sat upon her throne, the picture of imperious majesty. A servant announced Nan Xi's arrival. The Empress Dowager's face cooled. After all this time, she finally remembers to pay her respects. How very important she must be. Leave her outside. Ignore her. The servant, receiving no further instructions, neither told Nan Xi to wait nor granted her entry. Nan Xi, unsurprised, waited a few minutes before turning to Yi Qingcheng. See? I told you. We won't be seeing her tonight. Are you still interested in waiting? Yi Qingcheng rolled her eyes. I have no interest in waiting on her. My face is too precious to be wasted standing out here. Nan Xi turned to leave. In that case, let's go to the Royal Flower Garden. Yi Qingcheng happily linked arms with her. Excellent. Lead the way, Princess Consort. They walked away, leaving the Empress Dowager fuming in her palace. The Empress Dowager, still expecting Nan Xi to grovel, continued to entertain her concubines. Half an hour later, she finally summoned the head servant. Bring the Princess Consort in. The servant returned with a troubled expression. Your Majesty, the Princess Consort has left. The Empress Dowager exploded. What? How dare she? Who does she think she is? She assumed Nan Xi's visit was a gesture of submission, hence her intent to humiliate her. She was unaware that the Emperor had instructed Nan Xi to pay her respects. No one anticipated Nan Xi's abrupt departure. Meanwhile, Nan Xi and Yi Qingcheng were enjoying the Royal Flower Garden. Nan Xi, impressed by Yi Qingcheng's audacity, asked, You humiliated the Crown Prince in front of everyone. Won't he retaliate? Yi Qingcheng shrugged nonchalantly. Let him try. Nan Xi stared at her, struck by her fearlessness. You're surprisingly bold, utterly unconcerned with the consequences. Yi Qingcheng raised an eyebrow. Are you scared? Nan Xi smiled. No, just surprised. Your true personality is quite different from your public persona. Yi Qingcheng sighed softly. I was once a gentle and demure young woman. But fate forced me to become strong. She looked at Nan Xi. I envy you. You're the cherished daughter of Jiuxia Pavilion, and you have a husband who adores you. You can do whatever you please. Rongyu has power and an army. Zhuxiao Pavilion has wealth and influence. You two are a perfect match. Nan Xi didn't believe her sincerity. You know so much about Rongyu, you must know that my identity as the Zhuxiao Pavilion heiress is Yi Qingcheng interrupted. I know your identity is fake. But not everyone can claim to be the Zhuxiao Pavilion heiress. It's clear you hold a special place in Rongyu's heart, far more important than Zhuxiao Pavilion. The princess, sent for a political marriage, carried a deep-seated hatred for her own nation. Her enemies were her own people. The emperor, unaware of this, believed this marriage would ensure peace. In reality, it threatened the entire royal family. After Zhao Jian's plan against Nan Xi failed, the Empress Dowager, furious, raged in her palace, berating her servants and smashing vases. Meanwhile, Nan Xi, the true target of her wrath, strolled through the garden, casually chatting with Yi Qingcheng. When the topic of Rongyu arose, Nan Xi's voice softened. She felt incredibly lucky, sometimes even wondering how she deserved a man like him. Yi Qingcheng understood. Love was inexplicable, and there was no need to question it. Nan Xi, sensing something in Yi Qingcheng's words, asked if the person she sought in Dazhou was the one in her heart. Yi Qingcheng's expression hardened. Yes. In a way, the Shu royal family are my enemies, so, I have no intention of facilitating peace. Sending me here was their biggest mistake. There was a hidden meaning in her tone. Nan Xi studied her, puzzled by how a princess could consider her own family her enemies. It seemed this beautiful princess carried a heavy burden. Just then, Rongyu arrived. Nan Xi was surprised. You're back early. Is the banquet over? Not yet, but I wanted to leave. Yi Qingcheng smirked. As expected of the king. Leaving before the emperor. Does the king intend for me to stay at the manor tonight? Rongyu glanced at her coolly. Princess, will you stay in the palace tonight, or accompany Xia to the manor? Yi Qingcheng laughed. What a curious question. Isn't the manor yours? What do you mean accompany Xia? Though she jested, Rongyu didn't find it amusing. If you don't wish to go to the manor, you can stay at the Empress Fengyi Palace. Nan Xi cringed inwardly. Staying at Fengyi Palace. With the Empress temper, Yi Qingcheng will be nothing but a corpse by morning. If that happens, and war breaks out between our nations, who will bear the blame? She quickly intervened. My husband dislikes close contact with other women. If you come to the manor, you will be my guest. Yi Qingcheng playfully wrapped an arm around Nan Xi's waist, glancing provocatively at Rongyu. Then I must behave myself, lest I be thrown out. Or perhaps I should sleep with you tonight. Princess consort. Rongyu's face darkened. He pulled Nan Xi away possessively, his expression thunderous. He turned to Yinyu and Yinshuang. You will attend to the princess tonight. Ensure her accommodations are as far from the main residence as possible. And do not allow her to disturb the princess consort. Before noon tomorrow. Yinyu nodded politely. Yes, your majesty. Yi Qingcheng thought, he's so petty. Jealous of even a woman. Rongyu, having given his orders, departed with Nan Xi. Yi Qingcheng watched them leave, then turned to Yinyu and Yinshuang, one politely smiling, the other cold as ice. She sighed inwardly, then asked, which one of you is Yinshuang? Yinyu gestured. He is. Yinshuang simply nodded. Yi Qingcheng turned away with a resigned sigh. Well, I suppose I'll just go to bed. No one to chat with tonight. Back at the manor, Rongyu carried Nan Xi to their bed. Nan Xi playfully chided him, sending the icy Yinshuang to entertain the princess. You did that on purpose. Didn't you? She's a beautiful princess. How could you be so heartless? Rongyu's expression was serious. She's no match for your beauty. Nan Xi, genuinely curious about Yi Qingcheng, asked, what do you know about the Shu princess? Rongyu frowned. Are you that interested in her? Nan Xi, amused by his jealousy, said she was simply curious. You're jealous of her. Seeing his continued displeasure, she chuckled, taking his hand and placing it on her cheek. Don't worry, there's nothing between us. I should be the jealous one. I thought Yi Qingcheng's seductive aura only worked on men, but it seems you were captivated first. Rongyu's expression softened. There's nothing between us. You don't need to worry about that. It's you I'm worried about. He paused. I thought Yi Qingcheng's allure only worked on men. But it seems you were captivated first. The emperor, to counter Rong Yu, was willing to gamble the entire nation. He plotted to kill the princess, sparking a war between the two nations, forcing Rong Yu to lead his troops away from the capital. At the manor, Nan Xi and Rong Yu discussed Yi Qingcheng. Noticing Rong Yu's interest in Yi Qingcheng, he felt a pang of jealousy. Nan Xi explained, I find her personality refreshing and admirable. She's unapologetically herself, defying expectations. I admire her spirit. Rong Yu thought, you used to be just like her, even more so. Aloud, he said, there's no need to admire her. You're much better. He then asked, what did she tell you? Nan Xi recalled something intriguing. She said the Shu royal family are her enemies, and that she came to Dazhou to find someone. It sounds like she is looking for a lover. She also confidently claimed you wouldn't dare to stop her. Do you know anything about her situation? Rong Yu initially knew nothing, but had since learned some details from Yan Ting. Nan Xi was surprised. How would young Master Yan know about the Shu princess? Upon learning that Yan Ting was also from Shu, Nan Xi was intrigued. What a coincidence. Rong Yu didn't believe in coincidences. He had met Yan Ting years ago at the border, his body covered in self-inflicted wounds. Upon investigation, he discovered Yan Ting's background had been deliberately obscured. When Yan Ting awoke, he begged Rong Yu to stop investigating and offered his lifelong service in return for his silence. Rong Yu agreed. Do you think there's a connection between young Master Yan and the Shu princess? Rong Yu nodded. Yes, but it's a fortunate turn of events. I'm not interested in their affairs now. Nan Xi looked up, noticing the amorous glint in Rong Yu's eyes. He pulled her close. I'm only interested in you. The temperature in the room rose steadily. Meanwhile, the Empress Dowager fumed. Rong Chuyan listened to her rant about Nan Xi, astonished that the princess consort had left without even entering. The Empress Dowager raged. That Nan Xi is so arrogant. She thinks she's above me. She's always been disrespectful, but now with Rong Yu's backing, she's completely out of control. At the mention of Rong Yu, Rong Chuyun's face hardened. That uncle of mine has held power for far too long. I've been emperor for over a year, and I still can't control my own court. I've had enough. But he was powerless to act. The Empress Dowager, ever the schemer, offered a sinister suggestion. There's a way to deal with this. Doesn't the emperor have the Chu princess as a potential consort? Rong Chuyan, intrigued, asked her meaning. The Empress Dowager revealed her plot. If the Chu princess were to accidentally die in Dazhou, war would be inevitable. You could then justifiably remove Rong Yu from the capital, giving you time to consolidate your power and regain control of the court. Rong Chuyun's eyes lit up. A sinister smile spread across his face. A brilliant idea, mother. I will show those court officials who their true ruler is. The emperor began to suspect Nan Xi's identity, hoping to use it against Rong Yu. However, he didn't realize that her true identity was far more significant than her assumed one. After listening to his mother, Rong Chuyan excused himself. I will consider your suggestion carefully. Mother. Rest well. I have some matters to attend to in the imperial study. At the study's entrance, he encountered the Shu Crown Prince, Yi Yang. Yi Yang bowed. Your Majesty, forgive my intrusion. There's a matter weighing on my mind that I must discuss with you. Rong Chuyan told him to speak freely. Yi Yang expressed his suspicions about Nan Xi's identity. The Jiuxiao Pavilion Master's mother passed away long ago, and he is unmarried with no known relatives. Nan Xi's claim to be his daughter seems dubious. Rong Chuyan, though already suspicious, was still startled. You're saying her identity is false? Yi Yang, cautious, replied, I cannot be certain, but I am sure. A dark look flashed across Rong Chuyu's face. 9 out of 10 times, if it's mostly certain, then it's true. This is indeed a difficult situation. Yi Yang continued, Your Majesty is about to rule the world, so I understand your distrust of Prince Regent, and even your desire to take action. After the marriage alliance with Qingcheng succeeds, we will be family. If your Majesty needs anything, I will fully support you. It is my duty as a subject. Rong Chuyu smiled. I appreciate the Crown Prince's kindness. If I need anything in the future, I will definitely ask. A subtle smile appeared on Yi Yang's lips. Thank you for your Majesty's kindness, but there's one more thing I need your help with. Rong Chuyu raised an eyebrow. What is it? I would like you to officially recognize Yi Qingcheng as a princess during the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration. Although my sister has a willful personality, once she enters the royal family, she must abide by Dash's rules. If she disobeys, your majesty has the right to punish her however you see fit. As long as she lives, she can serve as a symbol of peace between our two countries. Rong Chuyu understood. These siblings truly didn't get along. To the crown prince, Yi Qingcheng was nothing more than a pawn in the game of international relations. In the prince regent's residence, Lin Fan returned from Donglin to report. The princess was warmly welcomed by the people of Donglin. The royal family members were also very friendly and expressed their joy at her return. Please rest assured, Your Highness and Madam, Rong Yu and Nan Xi were satisfied. However, Lin Fan's last sentence was incorrect. Nan Xi couldn't help but correct him. The prince and I have already clarified our relationship. Lin Fan immediately understood and corrected himself. Please rest assured, Your Highness and your wife. Nan Xi didn't think much of it, but seeing Rong Yu and Lin Fan's seriousness, she couldn't help but find it amusing. She then asked Lin Fan, my mother shouldn't be in any danger over there, right? Lin Fan replied, no. The Donglin royal family is eager to please her and wouldn't dare offend her. The princess also has the ability to protect herself. Nan Xi smiled in relief. That's good. General Lin, you must be tired from your long journey. Go back and rest. Lin Fan politely replied, it's not a problem. Rong Yu, also wanting Lin Fan out of their way, added, the princess told you to rest, so go. You don't have to be so formal. Lin Fan then excused himself. As Lin Fan was leaving, he happened to run into Yi Qingcheng. Although Yi Qingcheng had kissed him before, Lin Fan walked past without a glance. Yi Qingcheng couldn't help but mutter to herself, the people under the prince are truly steadfast. They don't even bat an eye at a beautiful princess. How dull. Rong Yu overheard Yi Qingcheng's complaint. Nan Xi smiled and asked, Princess, did you sleep well last night? Yi Qingcheng feigned a melancholic sigh. Not really. Sleeping in an unfamiliar place is always unsettling. I was alone at night, and the loneliness was truly unbearable. Rong Yu poured cold water on her act. If you're not comfortable staying in the residence, you can move to the imperial palace today. Yi Qingcheng sat down, teasing, Your Highness, such coldness is truly heartbreaking. Perhaps I should marry you instead. Then, as sisters with the princess, you might be gentler to me. A merchant girl, looked down upon by everyone, single-handedly bought out the capital's top jewelry store. Noble ladies filled the store, admiring the exquisite jewelry, and he simply packaged all the high-end jewelry and sent it to Gui. In the Prince Regent's mansion, Yi Qingcheng jokingly suggested marrying the prince and becoming sisters with the princess. Perhaps then the prince would be kinder to me. What do you think of this idea, princess? Rong Yu's gaze turned cold. Nan Xi replied calmly, not a good one. Princess, if you can be smart, we can be sisters and good friends, but if you dare to have designs on my husband, we can only be enemies. As she spoke, Nan Xi's expression turned frosty. Yi Qingcheng chuckled. Then I suppose it'll have to be smart. I wouldn't want to make an enemy of the princess. Nan Xi smiled. Rong Yu, tired of Yi Qingcheng's jokes, stood up. I'm going to check on the army camp. You entertain the princess today. If you're bored, Yi Qingcheng immediately protested, Your Highness, that's not right. I'm the guest. The princess should accompany me, not the other way around. Rong Yu didn't care. I don't care if you're a princess or a guest. Whoever you are, it's your honor to accompany the princess. If you're not satisfied, you can return to your own country. Nan Xi gently soothed Rong Yu, she's just joking. Don't take it seriously. You haven't been to the army camp for a while. They must be worried. Just leave the princess to me. Rong Yu's expression softened immediately at Nan Xi's words. He held her hand tightly and promised to return early. Seeing their affectionate display, Yi Qingcheng was inwardly disgusted. She thought to herself, if the people of my country knew that the cold and ruthless Prince Regent was capable of such tenderness and affection, they would surely rush here to witness it firsthand. After Rong Yu left, Yi Qingcheng couldn't help but complain, I was just about to politely excuse myself, and your husband actually did it for me. If he were the emperor, he'd definitely be the kind to skip court for his wife. Nan Xi didn't disagree. I think so too. She then asked Yi Qingcheng, Princess, since you've come to Dazhou, is there anywhere you'd like to go? As if she'd already planned it. Yi Qingcheng replied, I want to visit Moyu Pavilion and pick out some jewelry. Nan Xi turned to get some silver notes, but Yi Qingcheng stopped her. No need for silver notes. They won't be necessary. Nan Xi was puzzled. What do you mean? Yi Qingcheng smiled and asked, Princess, do you know who owns Moyu Pavilion? Nan Xi was still confused. From what you're saying, could it be someone I know? Yi Qingcheng laughed. It seems the princess really doesn't know. Well, I'll take you there today. A while later, Nan Xi, Yi Qingcheng, and Yinyu arrived at Moyu Pavilion. The street was as bustling as ever. The last time Nan Xi was here, she was with her mother. Back then, the noble ladies looked down on them, envious of her mother's connection to the Prince Regent while scorning her merchant background. They looked down on her background while envying her family's wealth. But now, she was the respected Princess Regent. Even the most jealous among them wouldn't dare offend her, and instead bowed their heads in greeting. Greetings, Princess Regent. The shopkeeper greeted her as respectfully as always, only with a different title. Your Highness, are you here to choose jewelry? We just received some new pieces. Would you like to take a look? Nan Xi gestured towards Yi Qingcheng. I'm accompanying this young lady today. Please attend to her. The shopkeeper immediately turned to Yi Qingcheng with enthusiasm. Miss, do you have any specific requirements? Yi Qingcheng didn't hold back. Please bring out the finest pieces from every category. I want to see them all. Seeing Yi Qingcheng's extravagant request, the shopkeeper was slightly taken aback. Miss, do you prefer gold or jade? What style do you like? Necklaces or earrings? Yi Qingcheng was straightforward. Didn't you hear me? I want everything. Hairpins, necklaces, earrings, everything. Not daring to disobey, the shopkeeper quickly brought out the most exquisite pieces from each category for Yi Qingcheng to choose from. Moyu Pavilion was renowned for its exquisite craftsmanship. The pieces displayed were truly exceptional. Even noble ladies, who usually bought only one piece at a time, were dazzled by the sight of so many high-end pieces on the table. As Nan Xi and Yi Qingcheng were admiring the jewelry, an arrogant voice sounded from the entrance. Bring out your best jewelry. My lady wants to choose a piece, as a birthday gift for the Empress Dowager. Nan Xi recognized the unpleasant voice and looked up. Miss Wen, what a coincidence. The merchant girl had become the Princess Regent. Yet Wen Lan still looked down on her, mocking her lack of upbringing at every meeting. Nan Xi and Yi Qingcheng were choosing jewelry at Moyu Pavilion. Wen Lan arrived dramatically. Before even entering, she loudly demanded the shopkeeper bring out the finest jewelry, proclaiming that her lady was choosing a gift for the Empress Dowager's birthday. Her tone was filled with arrogance. Nan Xi casually turned around and gave a perfunctory greeting. Miss Wen, what a coincidence. Wen Lan sneered. Indeed, quite a coincidence. Is Miss Nan also here to choose a birthday gift for the Empress Dowager? Wen Lan's arrogance suggested that gifting the Empress Dowager was a great honor. Nan Xi, however, appeared indifferent. A birthday gift. Seeing Nan Xi's confused expression, Wen Lan stepped closer, feigning surprise. Tomorrow is the Empress Dowager's birthday. Don't tell me you didn't know. Nan Xi chuckled. Of course, I know. But the Prince Regent's residence is full of treasures. There's no need for me to buy anything. Her words struck a nerve. Wen Lan felt a pang of jealousy. It seemed Nan Xi didn't care about the Empress Dowager's birthday at all. She couldn't help but sneer. I didn't expect you to become so arrogant after marrying the prince. Regent, to the point of neglecting the Empress Dowager's birthday. As expected of an uncultured merchant girl, truly unworthy. Wen Lan's anger made her lose control of her words. But Nan Xi remained calm. Whether I'm worthy or not, the position of Princess Regent is not up to you, Miss Wen. Your outburst makes it seem like you're trying to set me up. Nan Xi's words hit their mark. Wen Lan's face flushed, but all she could manage was a stammered you. Yi Qingcheng, observing the scene, understood. Wen Lan and Nan Xi clearly had a history, and in this situation, Nan Xi was clearly the victor. Wen Lan's maid couldn't stand it and spoke up. Miss Nan, that's too much. Just because you're married to the Prince Regent doesn't give you the right to bully others. My lady hasn't offended you. Yinyu stepped forward. It's only been a few days since I last taught you a lesson, and you've already forgotten. Cold words aren't considered an offense. Don't forget your place. A lowly maid dares to speak out against the princess regent. Apologize to the princess immediately. Yinyu's words stunned the maid. She was so focused on Wen Lan's status that she forgot Nan Xi's position. Realizing she had provoked someone she shouldn't have, she immediately knelt down. Forgive me, Your Highness. This servant was wrong. Please forgive my ignorance. Nan Xi glanced coldly at her. I'm in a good mood today, so I won't pursue this. But if there's a next time, you should know that killing a maid is easier than swatting a fly for me. So don't test my patience again. The maid trembled, profusely apologizing. Nan Xi turned back to Wen Lan. Miss Wen, whether you want to curry favor with the Empress Dowager, or stand out among the noble ladies is none of my business. But let me remind you, constantly pursuing a man who already has a family, no matter how outstanding that man is, he doesn't belong to you. Please be mindful of your actions. Wen Lan was speechless. But her pride as the granddaughter of the Grand Tutor remained. As she turned to leave, she couldn't resist muttering, unreasonable. Yue. Let's go. Nan Xi watched her go, unfazed. She's just lashing out. There's no need to react. She then turned to Yi Qingcheng. Miss Yi, have you made your choices? Yi Qingcheng smiled teasingly. I was enjoying the show. I haven't had time to choose anything yet. All right, shopkeeper, wrap all of these up for me. The shopkeeper, surprised by Yi Qingcheng's request, hesitantly reminded her, Miss Yi, each of these pieces is quite valuable. Perhaps you should. Yi Qingcheng interrupted him impatiently. What do you mean? Do you think I can't afford them? Is this how you do business? Bring out your owner. I want to have a word with them. Just as she finished speaking, a gentle voice rang out. Who's causing a commotion in Moyu Pavilion in broad daylight? I am the owner. Who wishes to see me? The speaker was Yan Ting, dressed in white, walking towards them with a gentle and refined demeanor. The noble ladies present were all stunned by his elegance. Everyone thought the Prince Regent married a merchant's daughter for her wealth, but they didn't know that the Prince Regent's wealth was even greater, to the point that even his wife didn't know the jewelry store before her belonged to her husband. Yi Qingcheng deliberately caused a scene in Moyu Pavilion, demanding to see the owner. Nan Xi was surprised when Yan Ting appeared. She didn't expect Moyu Pavilion's owner to be Yan Ting. It seemed he was also connected to the Nine Heavens Pavilion. Yi Qingcheng smiled knowingly and twirled a strand of hair around her finger. It's me. The moment Yan Ting saw Yi Qingcheng, a flicker of surprise flashed across his eyes. He quickly regained his composure and greeted her calmly, It's you. They looked at each other, appearing calm on the surface, but inwardly a storm raged within them. For a moment, the world seemed to fall silent. Although they appeared calm, Nan Xi sensed something unusual, and instinctively stepped back, observing them. The shopkeeper, oblivious to the subtle tension between them, broke the silence, informing Yan Ting about Yi Qingcheng's intention to buy everything on the table. Yi Qingcheng didn't deny it. I want all of this. Please calculate the total. Faced with such a large purchase, the shopkeeper didn't dare make the decision alone and looked at Yan Ting. Yan Ting, however, didn't seem bothered. Do as she says. Entertain our guest. I have something to attend to. He turned to leave. Yi Qingcheng immediately stopped him. Stop right there. If you dare step out that door, I guarantee that within an hour, someone will come to deal with you on my behalf. Yan Ting paused. He turned and told Yi Qingcheng, if you're seeking death, you shouldn't have come here. No one here will be held responsible for your death. Yi Qingcheng smiled coldly. If I'm not mistaken, this Moyu Pavilion belongs to the prince. Regent of Dazhou, correct. If I die here, the emperor will soon learn of the connection between the Prince Regent and the Nine Heavens Pavilion. Not only does the Prince Regent command troops, but he also possesses immense wealth. And now, it will be revealed that his most trusted associate is a high-ranking official from a foreign country. If you don't want Dazhou to descend into chaos, stay and talk. Her words caught Nan Xi's attention. She hadn't known that Moyu Pavilion belonged to Rongyu. He had never mentioned it. She turned to Yinyu for confirmation. Yinyu wasn't entirely sure either. The Nine Heavens Pavilion's influence spanned across many countries, with different managers responsible for each region. She wasn't aware of how many businesses within the Dazhou capital belonged to them. Yan Ting, however, was unfazed by Yi Qingcheng's threat. I have nothing to discuss with you. The Nine Heavens Pavilion doesn't care about what you're saying, and it won't happen. Yi Qingcheng then played her trump card. Don't care. 3 years ago, I adopted a 4-year-old child. I hear many nobles have peculiar tastes. Wouldn't you care if such a beautiful child fell into their hands? Yan Ting's expression changed drastically. Where is this child? Yi Qingcheng smirked. Why should I tell you? Yan Ting sighed and gestured towards the back. Follow me. Yi Qingcheng turned to Nan Xi. Please wait here for a moment. I'll be back soon. Nan Xi nodded. Take your time. The shopkeeper brought Nan Xi a cup of tea. Nan Xi confirmed with him, this jewelry store really belongs to Rongyu.